Where are they coming from? Is she at home?
Good morning, everybody. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silent prayer, and could we give thoughts to Commissioner Sotis Little and her husband today? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Rushton.
Present.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Sotis Little.
Well, she's here.
Okay. Commissioner Alguier
Here.
and Commissioner Launer.
Present. Do you think she's hearing?
Well, I don't know. Just a note on Patricia. She may participate today, but she may not vote. She will also not be a part of the closed session that we have later.
Is she Grand Traverse County?
Yes, Grand Traverse County. Thank you. We have an agenda to look at, and the administrator has suggested that we move item 7 right after the lift agreement renewal, which is item number 2. So could we make item 7 number 3 and move everything down one? Any other changes, additions, or deletions? Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
All those in support of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. Thank you. At this time, we offer public comment to anybody that wants to come forward. We'd ask you to state your name and where you're from, if you will, and we will keep the clock running. You have up to 5 minutes. Anybody wish to make public comment? Yes, Mr. Usher.
Good morning. My name is Keith Ashley. I'm from Leelanau Township. The efforts put forth by any number of people to try and bring reason to the election conspiracy theories is overwhelming. And yet here we are today getting an explanation of how the election system works. Our Michigan law is 280 pages dealing with elections. So we're going to learn about the checks and balances, the integrity of a large citizen volunteer network working under guidance to help make it work. Along comes a self-appointed, uncredentialed investigator with a career in drywalling inspired by his Jesus, and not only making his claims of election fraud, but successfully drawing in our sheriff who gave a large amount of time to an endeavor he can't prove happened, has no authority to spend taxpayers' money on in a jurisdiction elsewhere, and then applauding the efforts of this man. Any reasonable, intelligent person would quickly size up the situation for what it is. Another person sucked into the vast network of a cult bent on drastic changes in our country, our election processes, impairing any number of freedoms through book banning, election restrictions, personal health choices, etc. There's a book called Democracy in Chains by Nancy McLean. Well-researched. Half the book is the research notes. She lays out in great detail what is underway. The subtitle of this book is The Deep History of the Radical Right's Stealth Plan for America. It's very telling. It is about the radical right, and the key word is radical. I dare say many Republicans have unwittingly and unknowingly gotten caught up in some facet of this plan because it is so overwhelming in scope and so benign in implementation. They couldn't be deemed radical, and yet they have been carefully led down a path of compliance and comfort. There's nothing wrong with banning books, as long as you like who's doing the banning. There's nothing wrong with working in pursuit of a national religion with the help of General Michael Flynn, as long as you like the religion. it's noteworthy that Afghanistan has a national religion. There's nothing wrong with restricting your health choices as long as you like the choices. We don't need a bipartisan government as long as we are aligned with the controlling party. Note I didn't say the majority party. The radical right plan doesn't require the majority, but merely control over the election results, per Steve Bannon. This is the mindset we're falling into. We only govern ourselves successfully when we are smart enough to recognize and elect honest leaders with pure intentions. This drywaller come private eye might be an example of that. Good people, good intentions, unwittingly following a carefully constructed script to entice and convert people to a new way of viewing our country and processes. The purpose is simple: money, power, and control. Over 60 years in the making, its objectives are now being realized nationwide. A rather startling statistic is 40% of all federal judges have experienced training and or exposure to this plan. This is the control part. Education becomes the best tool we have as citizens to repel this insidious plan, and this is under attack. So regardless of your political persuasion, you owe yourself and your loved ones taking the time and at least reading this book and forming your own opinion from what is revealed. As a nation, 91% of us have a high school education. Holders of master's and doctorate degrees numbers 30 million people. So we aren't a dumb nation. But we seem easily manipulated by the slow churning of this plan because it isn't a bold, in-our-face type, but rather small changes, all for the good of our nation. A relatively small number of people are determining what is good. A final thought, like Mark Twain once stated, the truth has no defense against a fool determined to believe a lie. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Thank you.
My name is Deb Fellows, Leelanau Township. Just here to say that I'm working on or volunteering for a voter protection hotline. It is not through the Michigan Dems, but I get calls from every party. I'm not a member of any party. And I just encourage the board to be aware and open to the challenges that are being put forward to people who are legally just going into clerk's offices to vote. It doesn't matter if they think that you're not voting how they want you to vote. There is harassment. They're claiming that there's laws that are not laws. Our clerks are under under so much pressure. And volunteers, there's not enough volunteers to be in every place all the time. So the laws are the laws. We can change the laws. We can do what the legal process says to do. But I really encourage the board to be aware of this and to support other public officials. You are elected public officials and understand the pressures that you're under. And it's very distressing for people to not feel comfortable going in to vote. It's America, that's what we do. We cast our vote. If you want to change how that works, the election process is the election process. So hopefully you can be aware and support whatever your party is, support the rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, Carolyn.
And then there's somebody back there. She had her hand
I'm Carolyn Vaught from Amina, Leelanau Township. I'd like to thank Michelle Cracker and her excellent staff for the good work that they have done under harassment from election deniers. We are lucky to have them overseeing our elections. I believe that the right to vote is sacred. The more people that participate, the better it is for our democracy. Voting is at the heart of our democracy, which I feel is at great risk at the moment. The big lie, which the Leelanau Patriots are pushing, that the 2020 election was stolen, has been debunked by the courts. The big lie has been disproven by election officials, both Republican and Democrat. It has been debunked by expert testimony and various state attorneys general. The big lie is dangerous to our democracy, and it is time to put it to rest and to move on. Our county commissioners have more important work to do, and let's let them get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other public comments? Yes, Ms. Dawkins? Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Yeah, she just.
Hi, my name is Mary O'Neill, so from Solomon Township. I have kind of a unique story to tell. I was running for county commissioner, and I lost my primary election by 1 vote. What I didn't do as a result of that was I didn't call up Michelle Crocker and say, give me a break, Michelle, just find me 2 votes so I can. That did not happen.
Please.
Why? Because I trust Michelle Crocker. She's a Republican, but I trust her. I trust my Solon Township clerk, Shirley Mikowski, to do a good job. She's a Republican. I trust all of the township clerks in this county to do good jobs. What I did do, however, before the election was attend poll training. And I can tell you that is a complicated process that is overseen by both Republicans and Democrats during every step of the process. I'm not sure if any of the election deniers have ever attended poll training. I encourage them to do so. Maybe they should. They've been unfortunately convinced that there's not election integrity, but there is. As we know, Chris Krebs at a national level has said so, and I encourage you all to pretty much just ignore what these people are saying because there's really nothing to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Dawkins?
My name is Kathy Dawkins, I'm from Leland, and I'm not going to talk about voting right now. I just want to tell you, yesterday, got in my car after I loaded it up, drove north up to Town in the pouring rain. I want to say that I am thrilled that Trudy Gala and her crew have put together this recycling program for us over the last, I don't know how many years now, 10 years maybe, that we've had it. It's great. I get things out of my house. I know that it's not good, hopefully go in the sea or the ocean. So I just want to give them a heads up and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to recycle.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Bill Dungeon. I live in Solon Township. I'm here to talk about a lot of the recent actions by elected officials in the county which bear a striking resemblance to the nationwide effort to harass and intimidate election officials. From needlessly shuffling departments and responsibilities to leveling baseless accusations and ignoring clear policy for their investigations, these actions appear punitive in nature. Much is made of the power of the voter to hold election officials accountable, and that is a hallmark of our democracy. However, that power is not licensed to behave irresponsibly or improperly. Elected officials must be held to a higher standard. And if no remedy exists for conduct unworthy of that office, now is the time to devise one. I suggest perhaps censure. It falls to other elected officials to stand up for their constituents between elections. A stain on one elected official taints all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, Charles Knapp, Leelanau Township. Okay, first of all, all anybody wants in the election is to go to the fair and square. That's all they ask. So everybody's up here talks about fair and square, that's what they want. The first gentleman who spoke engaged in classic Democrat projection. He read down everything the Democrats do, and he had to read it. Then he projected it all onto the Republicans. I resent that. I hope attack. Because I'm a Republican, conservative Republican, Trump Republican. And I study the enemy. That's how you win war, not by studying yourself. Okay, Switching gears. I said it last commission meeting, I believe, I'll say it again. The septic resolution that the commission passed, apparently it's so wildly popular in the county that, and it's for the good of all the county and everybody's water, supposedly, the county should pay for it. And the health department shouldn't have anything to say about it. They'll find a way to charge you. I think they already are. I think they're putting $300 to just come out, look around, now, chair. When the last time was you've had it one people put you together receipts to prove it. So I don't think they should have a say. I think we should just have a receipt from the septic company that says, yeah, we cleaned and pumped this thing, it's all sealed, it wasn't good. I say all this because I just had this done 3 years ago, so, and it wasn't cheap. I mean, it was reasonable. They had Williams up to charge you. Well, let's say it was an entity addition in the budget for that amount. So those are the two things I really, two very different things I really want to get onto. As long as elections are fair and square, ballots that came in after polls votes aren't counted, that everybody who votes is legally eligible to vote when, where, and at the time that they're eligible to vote, who they are, they live there, they're old enough, they're U.S. citizens, the things they should have to be before they can vote. Fine. If you need drop boxes, check everybody in them very, very carefully. Ballot harvesting is currently illegal in Michigan, but I have a feeling it may be legal. That can be very, very tricky. So, but anyway, as long as people who vote are eligible to vote, they only vote once where they're legally allowed to vote. We don't have any objections. Okay? I won't torture you any longer, John.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Wisner?
Squeezing,
Wiesner, I'm sorry.
Mr. Wheezing. You can get one of Michelle to around the corner there. Oh, stop. I'm sorry. Demand honest elections in Leelanau County by replacing a million voting machines with paper secure paper ballots. And I don't think that's what people have spoken so far. We want people to be able to vote. We don't want to stop anybody voting, but we want honest voting. If you have dishonest voting, you're stealing votes from those who do honest voting. I'd like to say too that tcfamily.org is where I put up these files. I have 3 to put up. This one that I just handed out is very interesting, and I would ask those who say there's no evidence for voter fraud to answer this one, and the one in Antrim that I'll mention in a moment. Also have 2 large transcriptions. This one is by Jeff Lambert, and he's the one that looks at Antrim, and he's got a multitude of red flags for election fraud on this one, and I formatted it, kind of pick out the points that are meaningful to me. Look through there, and instead of just saying there's no evidence of absolute fraud, look at the evidence that they give and disprove it for those who are speaking. Don't just give a lame excuse, there's no fraud. Also, go to frankspeech.com, Moment of Truth Summit, from beginning to end. There's 89 sets of talks. People, all 50 states are represented. Look at those 50 talks. Sunday afternoon from 1 to 7 is all about machine fraud. So give specific answers. Say that this is wrong because this. This little handout, I just looked at the statistics. The folks here were kind enough to show me how to get to the elections. I went from 2010 to 2018, and looked at the Supreme Court election, and it averaged 18.1% spread. If you look at line 13 is the last line, 14 is the average, 18.1% Republican advantage for Supreme Court over 5 election cycles, 8 different elections, because they had some full-term, partial-term Supreme Courts. 8 elections, okay? And then I subtracted the supposed 5.2% loss by Trump in Leelanau County to make it 12.9%. And then I added the amount that the Democrats supposedly won the Supreme Court by 21.7% in 2020. So you get a delta variation, unexpected difference of 34.6%. Michelle and others to explain that. How does that come up like that? 34.6% unexpected. Where did that come from? In Antrim County, that's what this handout is, one of his main points. He's asking the township clerks, he said we have the votes. Let's use the votes. We have the record. How come nobody ever sees it? You know, nobody's seen the records of voting. So how can you say we have the votes if we never use them? And in Antrim County, there was a 34% spread. There was 24% more people that voted for Trump than Biden, yet the Supreme Court went 10% to Biden. Answer that one. Don't just let it go beside. And Commissioner Russell, I saw your letter. You say there's absolutely no proof. When you get the chance to speak today, answer that one. How come the Secretary of State counted the presidential election in Antrim, but yet there's this 34%, where did that come from? How come everybody voted Democrat for the Supreme Court, but they didn't vote Democrat for Biden after they straightened things out? So anyway, please watch for these on my website. There's a lot of information here. Go to the Moment of Truth Summit and listen to those talks, especially Sunday afternoon. It's all about the machine fraud. And Mike Lindell says and this one talks about the cast vote records, absolute proof. They looked at 400 of the 1,000 that they have already, ones from Leelanau County. 97% of them show absolute fraud in the graphing. And that's what's going to be on this handout too. tcfamily.org. I'm sending it out to 280 employees, and then when I send that out, it'll be on the website. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Robert Laporte. I'm a retired radiation oncologist who's been studying the effects of climate change on human health for probably the last 7 years. I'm now fully retired as an oncologist, but what do we do in our free time now? Well, we try and continue to do things that we've always done as physicians, people who care about health care, people who care about environmental health, childhood development, people who care like me, because that's how we're going to take care of our county and our citizens more and more efficiently and more honestly and fairly. We care about Leelanau County and we care about our population. So, why are we here arguing with people or talking down to people if they have ideas, or giving them smart aleck responses like, go do your own research? This is not healthy. We have to act like adults, pay attention to what our responsibilities are, and you all know what your responsibilities are. Honestly, I think you've probably all taken an oath, if I can maybe make a jump, I'm not sure, but I think you've probably all taken an oath to probably uphold things like the Constitution of the state, or maybe even the country, I'm not sure. But I just think that we need to get real again. What's important? Do we have available housing and affordable housing? Do we want to help child care in this county so that these young families who can't afford childcare have some extra help? Or if there's food insecurity, are we really going to recommend to people that you go out and pick up your fruit or vegetables off the truck? That that's supposed to be a legitimate safety net? I mean, think about what goes on here and think about what's really at stake. Because we need to do all sorts of things, including environmental justice, cleaning up our water, cleaning up our septic system, demanding ground well inspections. And those are the important things. You know, we have to give every woman her right to her body. We have to also make sure that the voters get what they voted for, the majority. I mean, how can somebody actually stand up and say, well, they made the wrong decision and that's why we're here to respect it? You know what? I'm glad I collected a lot of petitions on that signature. And now, thankfully, we've got a little bit more decent Board of Commissioners. It's not 100%, but I think what you need to know, and everybody else needs to know, if you believe there's voter fraud, if you believe there's or election fraud, or if you don't trust the vote, if you believe that a certain politician was sent here by God to tell us how we should behave, and you don't believe that the vote is trustworthy, and you don't believe that our election officials who manage it aren't absolutely fabulous, our clerk who runs the county offices, our clerks who run the different districts, they're doing a great job. So if you believe that the voter election is wrong, or is fraud, or you can't trust it, then you know what I recommend to all of you people? Don't vote.
Please address the board, please. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Any other public comment?
Yeah, he's been waiting.
I didn't plan to talk today, but my name is Jerry Hosky. I'm from Leelanau Township. I was trained by Michelle to be a poll inspector, a paid job, and I worked at Sullivan Township. Sure, it was wonderful. I think a lot of Michelle as well. But I'm here to tell you that just because we have a different opinion doesn't make us demons, okay? And your own government, who's in charge of the cybersecurity effort, has said that the many voting machines were in 9 ways seriously susceptible to hacking. That's your government.
Please address the board. Thank you.
I'll just read it to you. We're in an era where everything digital, is hackable. Okay? I'd love to ask you, has this government center and this stuff here been hacked? I think so. I think twice. Okay? I'm not saying anyone in our county is doing anything untoward. Okay? But if there's people out there that don't believe in these machines, you have to acknowledge it. We used to be the gold standard in voting. That's when we had paper ballots and they were hand counted. Okay, we've got to get rid of the machines. People don't have confidence. Your own government said that they're highly vulnerable. And I'll read to you again. This is not anything about our county, but the Michigan Secretary of State sent out roughly 7.7 million absentee ballot applications in 2020, unasked for. On October 6th, Benson instructed the local city and township clerks not to verify their signatures on the absentee ballot applications, taking away the only security mechanism in place for absentee voting in Michigan. Michelle can tell me if that's true or not, but that's what I have read and I've seen articles about. The other thing, in October 20, the state of Michigan expanded their number of drop boxes from 700 to 1,200. And sure, that's so people can go vote more. I get that argument, but it promotes the ability to commit fraud. Okay? The other thing I'll tell you is our Secretary of State recently tried to get a suit dismiss 25,000 voters that were on the voter rolls. 25,000. Some had died 5 years ago, some had died 10 years ago. This was a lawsuit trying to get her to push the button to update the voter rolls. She didn't. She tried to dismiss the lawsuit. So please don't say that there's a bunch of crazy people out there thinking that there's fraud. I'm not saying there's fraud. I'm saying there are issues and we need to address them. And people don't have confidence in our voting. And it is an issue you should be thinking of.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Hi, Karen Josephus, Bingham Township. I just wanted to say that as chair of the Republican Party, I have worked hard to make sure that we have fair elections. And knowing that the law allows us to have 50-50 representation in every area we can in terms of poll workers, poll challengers, and whatever part someone plays. We have not paid enough attention in the past in terms of those percentages. Because of the 2020 election, I have been much more determined to make sure that the law that we are allowed, I don't have the number with me, but that we have 50-50. And that's not saying that anybody is doing anything wrong, it's that we have not been paying attention. And I sent out an email to our county townships, the clerks, that if they needed help finding GOP representatives, that I was there to help support them. And I don't know sometimes until just a few days before the election who is performing in those positions and what parties they are part of. And I can think of 3 off the top of my head where the GOP did not have a 50%, had much less than 50% representation. Now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, we deserve to have equal representation. I will stand for the Democrats to have that just as well as the Republicans. So when we talk about, election integrity, to me, that's where it starts, and it starts at the local level. So I will be working really hard to make sure that that happens this year, or this general election, and I'm asking anyone, to please step up to the plate to have a voice. And again, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. And I hope that Michelle Crocker, and I'm sure that she does a fabulous job of training to make sure that the township clerks know that that is our right as a law. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Well, we want to thank you for speaking out this morning. Are there any commissioner comments? Yes, Mr. Robbins?
Been sitting here for the last 3 months watching the public comments. First of all, Mary O'Neill, I want to congratulate you. You have the torch now, 1 vote. I had 2, now you have the torch, so congratulations. But, I've been sitting here just listening for 3 months, maybe it's been longer than that. And we're here to represent Leelanau County. I know there may be issues in the other 82 counties, but I've never heard of an issue here in our county from all the public comment. You all say that Michelle Crocker's doing a great job. She's a great clerk. We may not always agree on non-clerk things, but she's a great clerk. I think we have great township clerks. In my district, I have a city clerk. And I haven't heard any fraud here in our county in the last 3 months. I hear about everything else, what's happening everywhere else. I mean, your sign bill, honest elections in Leelanau County. I think we've had honest elections in our county. I know I'm going out on a limb, you're my neighbor, but I think things have been going good up here. Can they be better? Yes. But it's time that we stop trashing our clerks. And let's move forward.
Please, no applause, thank you.
I know.
Did you finish, Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Thank you. At this time, we'll turn to our agenda, and we have communications, proclamations, and presentations with the administrator up here
Yeah,
first.
I'll keep my comments brief because I know most of you are here to listen to the clerk, but just a couple updates, and I have many things on the agenda. One, there was an earring found as people were walking in. If anyone's lost an earring, it's up here.
Is it gold?
Yes.
That's mine.
All right, mystery solved, all right. I have
That's
it.
easy.
Pass it down.
There you go, I'll pass it down now. Two, the Mid-Michigan Honor Flight is back on, so if any of you in the audience know veterans from World War II through the Iraqi War that have served our country, they're eligible to go to Washington for an honor flight. This is the first time we're doing it in 3 years. There's 3 residents from Leelanau County going. This flight is only Korean War veterans. Unfortunately, since 2019, 23 veterans that signed up in mid-Michigan to go have passed away. And so they're focusing this flight on Korean veterans, but there's one next year. And if any of you know veterans that served our country and like to participate, there's no cost to the veteran. Please contact me. And we have some sponsorship forms available. And please let me know, because I really would like to get those to go. Since 2016, I think we had 17 veterans in Leelanau County go to Washington. It's a one-day flight, and there's no cost for the veterans. So if you know veterans, and many of them are afraid to say something or too humble to say they were part of the service. So if you just give me their names, I'll be glad to contact them. And this fall flight, Commissioner Lautner is a chaperone for one of our veterans from the Korean War, and that's coming up in October. So if you know any veterans,
I'm
please,
honored.
please contact me.
Could I interrupt you? I wanted to be a chaperone, but I was told I was too old. Young Commissioner Lawson.
Yeah, to do it. Yes, there is a age
that
cutoff
wasn't
for the
true,
chaperones. And so, number 3, just want to share a story that happened to me Friday night. I was at a social event Friday night, and I got a text message from a phone number I didn't recognize, and usually I thought that might be a spam, but I did read it, and it was a minister from Charlevoix County. They were in Leelanau County to perform a wedding Saturday. They were at the rehearsal dinner, and the bride and groom turned to each other and to the parents saying, "Now, who picked up the marriage certificate?"
Oh,
And they said, "Well, you did." They said, "No, you did." No one picked up the marriage certificate. This was Friday night. They're panicking. They don't know who to call. The gentleman from Charlevoix knew who I was from when I was a superintendent in Charlevoix, made phone calls, somehow got hold of my cell number, sent me a text. I called him. Everyone was panicking. I said, "I know the person that can help us out." So this was around 8:30. By 9:30, Michelle Crocker drove up here to Government Center, met the minister, and gave him the marriage certificate. So, Michelle, thank you for that. You turned a very stressful evening into a very joyful weekend. As I understand, the wedding was beautiful, and they were so grateful.
This is not the first time, I understand, is
No.
it? No.
But I just want to share that story publicly
Yeah, that's awesome.
with everybody.
It's usually their socks. Somebody forgets their socks. Know about those things.
I did tell the minister to offer a free trip to Disney for the event, but I'll let the minister and Michelle work that out. That's it for me.
Thank you. Well, at this time, our county clerk is going to make a presentation on the election process. Thank you, Michelle.
I can't bring my whole office. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's out of your office, yes.
I did want to comment before Michelle starts that this will be a presentation to the Board of Commissioners, and commissioners may ask questions, but the audience, please just listen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Friday night, happy to help, but my husband said to me, "How do you forget to pick up your marriage license?" I said, "It happens." They were quite panicked, but and they were only 2 miles from here, I think over at Aurora Cellars to do a wedding. And the funny thing was, is the guy did come here at 10 after 5. And I said, "Oh, I was here, you were playing the band." So that was me, but the doors were locked, so we couldn't get in, and we didn't call, but all the same. They had a beautiful day. So I'm here to talk about elections, but before I do that, I just wanted to introduce some of my staff that's involved in elections before I start. So my chief deputy, Jen Zawicki, does my elections management portal. It's down farther in my notes here. And this is one of my deputies, Linda Betsy. She does a lot of all the programming and all the testing. We do an internal testing in our office. And then we have Molly Toplinsky and Sammy Zintek, and they are just getting into our election world, and they, this week, are learning all about proof ballots and sending them out to all of the candidates and all that's required to make sure everyone on the ballot gets a proof ballot to review before we can go to print. Allison Middleton, she is learning the election management system. And then we have Kathy Hartsfelden, because she's not a full-time deputy. Kathy has gone through the training, and she actually runs the electronic poll book in Sunset Township. And she's also served as a receiving board. So everyone is pretty much involved in the office. So I just wanted to introduce you so you could put some faces to the different activities that are happening. So, before I go on, just a little bit of information that most of the members of the board, but I do have a couple of new faces. The Office of the County Clerk was established by the Michigan State Constitution. The county clerk is elected on a partisan basis for a 4-year term. Some Michigan county clerks are also elected to serve as a Register of Deeds. The combination of the Office of the County Clerk and the Register of Deeds was established in 1850 by the Constitution. There's over 35 combined offices in the state. We have 83 counties in the state. The duties of the county clerk are provided by Michigan law, and the clerk's office is one of the most diversified in county government, and we're governed by over 596 statutes, which include but are not limited to being the clerk of the court, which is your circuit court, your probate, the chief election official of the county, the clerk to the jury board, the Board of Canvassers, the Board of Commissioners, the Apportionment Commission, the County Election Commission, the Plat Board, and the Vital Records Registrar. So those are just some of the different things that we do in addition to elections. As I was preparing for this, I know there were some comments about the presentation I gave to Rotary. When I spoke just off the cuff a couple weeks ago, I covered a lot of what I did say at Rotary, but some of it may need some repeating. The voting system that we've purchased here in the county is Dominion. There are 83 counties in Michigan. In our county, all of our townships, except for the city of Traverse City, which holds a portion of Commissioner District 1, they use ES&S. Everyone else in the county uses Dominion. There are 65 counties that use Dominion, 7 that use ES&S, 11 that use HART. HART equipment is pretty much in southern Michigan. ES&S is just sprinkled. Emmett County, Grand Traverse, Mason, it's just a little bit hit and miss throughout the county, but the majority of us are Dominion. We did have systems. These went through all of the vendor selection format. There were processes that went out to comply with state and federal security, and we were given the 3 choices. I invited all 3 vendors up here. A Dominion came, and so did ES&S. Dominion is the one, after consultation with the clerks, is what I chose. If I had to choose again tomorrow, the question is, would I pick it? Absolutely. It's safe, it's secure. I have no problems with the equipment, but I also know how to use it, and I know all the work that goes into it. So as I was preparing for today, it's really hard to know where to take this discussion. I was fortunate enough last week at my Michigan Association of County Clerks office. They had a really good speaker there. He was David J. Becker, the executive director and founder of the Center for Election Innovation and Research, and he just pointed out, some great things that happened with the election, because right now we can't get movement beyond 2020 in some fractions, because everything is looked at through the prism of 2020 and an idea of what people think and the reality of what took place. There was in Michigan elections, there was a turnout, I believe, of over 5 million voters. And it was an all-time high in the Michigan history of voters. 73.9% of all eligible voters reported. Leelanau County had 79.48% turnout. That is excellent. We might not have the numbers that other jurisdictions have, with around 20,000, but we always have, our people show up to vote. As long as I'm clerk, we're never going to run out of paper ballots. We're never going to. So that's just a great. U.S. turnout overall was 66.8 of eligible voters. So that's great. 2020 was secure. It was a secure election according to experts, officials, and key organizations. In 2016, and now I'm speaking countrywide, which I don't like to do, I just really prefer to focus on Leelanau County. But countrywide, fewer than 80% of ballots in 2016 were auditable in paper. In 2020, that number increased to 95%, including nearly all ballots cast in every presidential battleground state. Georgia, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Virginia were among the states that transitioned to statewide use of ballots with a paper trail by 2020. 43 states, including Michigan, audited those ballots, the most ever, confirming the results. The losing candidate chose not to request a statewide recount in states he lost, though he had a legal right to ask for such a recount in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And I understand everything I'm saying can be debated. I'm fully aware of that, and I'm fully aware it's hard to change the trajectory some people are at. I get that. The rules for the election were set transparently months before the election, even when the pandemic required some accommodations for voter safety. Where campaigns disagreed with those rules, some were challenged with wins and losses on both sides, while other rules were left unchallenged. In every case, both campaigns knew the rules well before the election, and the rule of law carried the day. Business Insider for February 22 of 2021, that after the 2020 election, the losing candidate filed more than 40 lawsuits challenging the results. Over 80 judges, many appointed by the losing candidate, reviewed the evidence and unanimously found that the former president had lost. Michigan was the model. Paper ballots statewide. So when we look at this sign, which is very nicely done, to replace the new voting machines with secure paper ballots, just so you know, if you voted recently, these are sample ballots, but these are paper. These are retained. These are what we vote on. These are kept and these are stored. When we go to recounts, which I have done many, many recounts, we vote on paper and we rely on these. So we do vote on paper ballots. So, auditable, paper ballots, we do audits, we do thorough audits, we have a checklist, and they're very, very good, and we will continue to do more audits. Lynn and I participate, as does Jen, in these audits when we go out to the township, or I may bring the township in here. And we do check the races and we do verify the totals. So I can assure you that we are voting on paper ballots. Because security is a huge issue, but I also hear other things. And as I've been writing this up, I'm just not quite sure where to go. I think I've already addressed with you the issue about Sharpie pens, because that was a big issue. We use Sharpie pens on our ballots that may bleed through because they're the fastest drying ink. When you vote absentee, you may not use one at home. You may use a pen or a marker or whatever you choose, or a pencil. And as long as the ovals are colored in, the machine will read that. And also, when these may bleed through, the bubbles are the little things you color in. They don't line up from front to back. So if you do get bleed through, we're not worried about that. So that was one of the questions I heard. I told you about how many counties have Dominion. Let's see here. there's always this thought that we want you to count ballots by hand. Well, we can't do that on election night. We have to use tabulators. It's in the Michigan compiled laws. If you're looking to change that, you need to be talking to your representatives in Lansing. They're the ones that you need to talk to. We are obligated by state law to use an electronic voting system because there was one selected by the Secretary of State and years ago as a uniform voting system in every precinct. You know, when I first started voting, as I'm sure most of the people in here, you probably all remember the lever machines. And you would stand up behind them and you would click your levers. You could vote a straight party with the click of one, and then, or you could pick your candidates going across the screen with your proposals at the end. At the end of the night, how you voted and how it was tabulated was pulling that big lever and the roll was spin behind it. But that always would come into controversy because the question would be, at the end of the night when that Republican and Democrat went behind the machine, did they read the right marks from the right oath or the right candidate? So it doesn't matter what system you use, there's always going to be some questions. We have been using Dominion since 2018. Prior to Dominion, we used what was called AccuVote, which one of the companies that owned it was Diebold, and then ES&S and Dominion. They all owned AccuVote at one point or another. So we began using Dominion in 2018. And while a lot of the comments are focused on the 2020 election, I'm wondering how many people are aware that when I get to November, at least in this county, that will be my 6th election since 2020. 2020 was not our election. We're on number 6. So we need to keep that in mind. One thing I want to address just because I'm intrigued by statistics. And sometimes people presume because you have on your ballot, these are the ballots we're proving right now. This is the new one. This is for most of our county. It's going to be a 2-sided ballot. Unfortunately, it's going to have 4 columns across the front because one of our townships has so many proposals, it's going to take 4 on the back. And you want to avoid a 2-page ballot. 2 pages mean 2 individual pages wherever you can. There's a presumption when this came back on the ballot, and what I'm pointing to is the straight party ticket. That if you're a Republican, that people are going to color in that oval and just vote Republican or Democrat. I'm not picking on any party. It could be Green, it could be Libertarian, it doesn't matter. But statistically, a majority of the voters do not use this. And I call it independent thinking. People like to color in their ovals for their candidates. They like to skip certain ballot issues. We also get people that vote a blank ballot. People aren't aware of that. If you have 1,000 people show up to vote, you may, but statistically, unless it's just a hot button person or candidate on there, you're not going to find a vote that totals 1,000 because a lot of people don't care. You also have to factor in your people that vote a blank ballot. Some people would say, why do they vote a blank ballot? Because it's very important for them when people go and request those voter rolls that they say they showed up to vote. But they don't want to vote for anyone or anything on that ballot. So it does happen. We see that when we get to recounts. As far as the security, I want to touch on that. So we test the programming in our office. Lynn does it, and Lynn does a great job. We are not required by law to do this, but we do that because it's that extra level that I feel that we need to do when I get the information to me before we give it to the township clerks. So we do a test internally in the office. Then the township clerks, when they receive it, those scan discs, they will do a preliminary testing prior to their public accuracy testing. And the public accuracy testing is published in the newspaper, and it is open to the public, and it's conducted under the authority of the Township Election Commission. which in all of our townships, except for Elmwood, it's the supervisor, the clerk, and the treasurer. In Elmwood Township, because they're a township, a charter township, it's connected, you know the word I want, by the clerk and 2 trustees. So Elmwood's a little different, and I'm not sure in the city because the city clerk Benjamin, he handles that. So the purpose of the public accuracy test is we are looking for overvotes. We're looking for blank ballots. We're making sure that no ballots from another jurisdiction can get through there. There's specific things that we have to, that the township clerk and that election commission have to look for. It's what we look for in here. And there is a list in our election manual of the different things that we are looking for. So it's one more test that we do. And we would know by the pre-election logic test. In my office, if there's an issue, then we program it, we finish, we fix it. If the clerk has a problem, she will bring those back in and we will do another program to reset it so we can test it again. We'll even ask her sometimes to bring the machine in. After that public test is concluded, those machines have seals put on them. And the seal number is recorded as well as the serial number that programming is into. So that on election morning, when you have your Republican and Democrats, trained election workers, and there can be other parties there, but the Republicans and Democrats must be represented. They are checking that. They are signing off that they have checked the serial number, that they've got the right machine, and it matches that serial number. And they're producing what's called the zeros tape. And they are looking to make sure that everything that's on that zeros tape agrees with what is on the ballots that they have. That tape is signed by all those present, folded up and placed into, usually there's a nice little divot on the machine that can sit there all day long. And it is connected to what we call our first totals tape at the end of the night. From there, we have what we call a virtual private network, where those numbers will be transmitted to my office. Our election management, I'm always used to saying the wrong words, and I don't want to confuse anyone. Our election management system is not hooked up to the internet. There is nothing that we do with programming, ballot counting, or anything that is ever connected to the internet. So I just want to assure everyone, nothing is connected to the internet. If someone is telling you it is not. Also, you remember a month or so ago, someone wanted to say that someone from Japan came into our servers. First of all, none of my election stuff is hooked up to the servers or the internet. Second of all, no one from Japan got into our computers. We have firewalls in place. I have lived here when our computers and our financials and our court system and our lien and everything has been compromised. Nothing's been compromised here. But no one is getting into our elections. And in fact, if that election management system was connected to the internet, I would be decertified. And I would have to come and get a new one or get it fixed. So I just want to assure you on that. Now, I kind of jumped over a few things. When we're looking at ballots here in the county for proofing, that is done to make sure everything there is lined up. We do not check the programming, but the proofing of ballots to make sure they're correct as to form, name placement, offices, and all of that. That's done by the county election commission, which is myself, Judge Kronkowski, the probate judge, serves as chairman, and county treasurer John Gallagher is also a member, and we do this before every election, and we meet. That work can be delegated to me as county clerk for my staff and I to do it, but I just kind of have a philosophy that if the ship is going to sink, I'm going to take a few other people with me. And in this case, I'm going to take the probate judge and the county treasurer with me. That's why we look at these and we look very carefully because we don't want mistakes. Does it mean mistakes don't happen? Sure. I mean, in accident, it can happen. Our canvassing board, when we start canvassing, and I also saw 2 canvassers here today, are 2 Republicans and they're 2 Democrats. They belong to the parties. They're good workers. They are diligent in what they do. Do they have political differences? Mm-hmm. But when they get here to do their canvassing, they're here to do a job. And their party politics is not going to interfere. They also go through training. We have a manual that's about this thing about what county canvassers do. Their politics cannot enter into this. They do not hesitate to call a township in if we need to, and have them maybe retabulate their ballots. We will do that if things don't match up. Because at the end of the night, you're comparing your electronic poll book to your applications to vote and to how many ballots have been tabulated. In November, because we're trying to prepare for this election, do I anticipate that we could be looking at the Board of Canvassers, and I know I saw in Cincinnati, bringing some townships in? Yes, I do. And it's not going to be because the equipment didn't work. It's not going to be because someone necessarily did something wrong, but we're looking for the November election at potentially 7 different write-in candidates at least. And we're going to want to make sure, and hopefully if they do it right, they get trained in our election manual, I go over it pretty thoroughly about how you do writing candidates. They have to write every variation of the name if it was in the correct target area, and your tape indicates they have to look for those ballots. And they're kept in what's called a sleeve that is underneath the tabulator. And so I think that that could possibly happen. I'm going to offer some more special training on that for those townships that feel that they want to come in for that. Now, let's see here. There's a couple other things. I just have to touch. I love statistics. And I heard Bill speak, and I'm not going to pronounce his last name because I don't want to do it incorrectly. But he talks about the numbers. How can so many people vote up here for a Republican and not here and not here? In August of 2020, it was 3:30 in the morning and I was reporting my numbers to the state of Michigan. And when the stuff is coming in, anyone will tell you, I'm not paying attention to wins and losses. I am here to do a job. I'm not even telling you how many votes I'm getting because that's not what my concern is. I'm typing these numbers in to a form that I have to go, and I'm going from secure election results. And I get to the form, and I am typing in John James' numbers and Gary Peters' numbers. And as I'm putting them in, they tied. They tied in Leelanau County in an August primary. Jen heard me, I just let out a scream. Before I would hit that button, we went back, because I had all my envelopes, and I started looking at every paper in there just to make sure. I knew that everything was okay, but I was going to double check. And the numbers were spot on to everything that came into my election management system. I told Jen, I said, I'm going to hit the button. The state's going to be calling. It wasn't even 15 minutes, and I said, State of Michigan. I just picked it up. We're tired. I don't even identify the county or who they're talking to. I said, it's Michelle, they're correct. And they start laughing and said, Michelle, this can't. I said, they are correct. What do you want me? I have doubled and triple checked. They are good. What do you want me to send you? I sent them some reports because they were going to have questions on it. The Board of Canvassers canvassed. There were no issues. The paper matched the election management system. We get to November of 2020, because you're not probably reading page by page, 100 and some pages. Those two same candidates tied in Leland Township when you combine the vote between the people that voted in the live precinct and the absent voter. For the numbers, identical, no, but the total was because we add them together, they equal. So people don't see that, and it happens. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the system. People vote where they want to vote. It's that simple. We've heard about registrations and all the applications to vote, blank applications that requested out that were sent out by the Secretary of State in 2020. I don't get into the politics of this. Really not interested. Can you argue it's good? Can you argue it's bad? When you send out applications and they come back that someone doesn't live there, what a great way for those township clerks to clean up their voter rolls. We cannot and will not just willy-nilly randomly, and I'm not suggesting that people are saying to do that, but we're not going to just take people off. We can't take people off that just because they don't vote or because someone thinks they shouldn't. I'll ask people, are they a protected voter? What do you mean a protected voter? They don't live here. Are they protected? Are they a member of the uniformed service on active duty, or are they dependents? Are they members of the merchant marine, or their dependents? Are they civilian voters living overseas? National Guardsmen activated on state orders. Lynn said that I could use her as an example. Some may know where she lives, but there's more people at her house registered because they're protected voters. They're in the military, and they have a right to claim a permanent residence, and this is what they claim as their permanent residence. So we need to be very careful when we're saying about registered voters. There is inactive voters. In our county, we have about 539, I think it was, 593. Active voters are they're placed on the inactive file when the person goes 6 consecutive years without voting. And then there's certain ways that they come back on, but a lack of voting is not going to remove someone from the voter file. I also hear about identification. It would be more secure if we had to show ID. I don't know when the last time people voted, but you do have to show ID to vote. You can show a Michigan driver's license, you can show an out-of-state driver's license, a passport, tribal identification. If you are a college student or a high school student that's of the age to vote, you can show that. You can't use your faculty, you can't use that. You can use your state, federal employee identification, your state employee identification. You cannot use Leelanau County identification, it won't help. You also cannot use CPL, thank you. You can't use a CPL. A lot of people want to show their CPL because it's got a nice emblem of the state of Michigan on them. When I issue them, those are not allowable. In August of 22, Lynn did a little research, and we had 19 people that signed the affidavit. That means there were 19 people out of over 9,000 that voted that did not have ID on them. They have to sign the certificate on the back, which says, I believe that it's a felony. They swear to who they are. So that's out of 9,000, well, it was over 9,000 voters, 19 voters, that's not too bad. I've also had, let's see here, Johnny, keep going, this is good enough.
Well, I assume you're nearing the end, and I know that there's going to be some questions.
Michelle, if you will, at this point, you talked about voters being able to sign the affidavit. Maybe you want to clarify that a little
Right,
bit.
and I meant to bring that, I must have left it on my desk. So what they can do is, if they don't have, first of all, we cannot post anything that says voter ID mandatory. We can't post signs. It does say that you'll be required on the states that, the state form that we can post in there. We're looking to keep those laws free. So an affidavit of voter not in possession of picture identification, it would say, I, Michelle Crocker, hereby affirm that I reside at, and you put your address. I further affirm that I'm not in possession of a driver's license, and then it lists all the different things, and wish to register to vote. And by signing this affidavit, I swear that the statements made above are true. The voter signs. They also have a statement. Making a false statement in this affidavit is perjury, punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 or imprisonment of up to 5 years of both. So they do sign that. We do, when this came into place several years ago, we had to keep statistics on this, of how many people do this. We used to, and I used to do it quite frequently in my training, to say, well, if they say they don't have their ID, if it's in the car, maybe they'd be willing to go back and get it, because you know statistics are coming. The problem with that, and the reason it's frowned on, is someone goes outside, they go to get it when they realize they don't have their driver's license or whatever, or they start and they get distracted, then they don't come back in to vote. So we do have a mechanism. Most people know to bring their ID. If anyone is going to a precinct where they're not checking ID, they do need to let me know. When I walk in to vote in person, I always put my ID in my pocket because I'm waiting to see, will they ask me for it? And they do, without fail, ask me for it. Because it is emphasized strongly at training. It does not matter who is your spouse, your employer. It does not matter who it is, you need to ask for that ID. Absentee ballots. When you go in to pick up your absentee ballot, you are showing ID. If you do it through the mail or it's emailed in and you've got your signature on it, that signature is verified against the qualified voter file. We have your 5-year signature on file. If it matches, the application is forwarded to that voter at their home address, or if they're out of state, or somewhere else. You can't send it to them at a different address within that jurisdiction they're registered. When that the voter votes the ballot and it comes back in, that signature is again checked against the application and against the qualified voter file, and they best all agree. If they do not agree, the clerks will make every effort they can to get that voter to come in. We have some voters that have to have their signature updated frequently because of physical conditions. Every voter must be able to be participatory in the signing to get that ballot. Even if it's unfortunately someone that cannot use their arms, does it put people in an uncomfortable position? Absolutely, but they can hold that pen in their mouth and do some sort of signature. The clerks are very accommodating to that because we want them. Can we have someone help them complete their ballot? Absolutely, whether it's AD or it's in the polls. There are regulations and laws to do that. Power of attorney. Power of attorney for someone's not going to get you a ballot. You can try all you want, but you're not going to get it. So the one thing that I would encourage you, because I do want to take questions because I could talk forever, is I would encourage you, because it's the one thing that we never hear in front of you, is to read the report on the November 2020 election in Michigan that was by the Michigan Senate Oversight Committee. It had 4 members on here, and I don't think you can just conveniently ignore this. And I just want to read this 2 paragraphs to you, if it's okay. And this is from Senator Ed Boone, who was the chair. We must all remember extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. And claiming to find something extraordinary requires first eliminating the ordinary. Also, sources must lose credibility when it is shown they promote falsehoods, even more when they never take accountability for those falsehoods. At this point, I feel competent to assert the results of the Michigan election are accurately represented by the certified and audited results. While the committee was unable to exhaust every possibility, we were able to delve thoroughly into enough to reasonably reach this conclusion. The strongest conclusion comes in regard to Antrim County. All compelling theories that sprang forth from the rumors surrounding Antrim County are diminished so significantly as for it to be a complete waste of time to consider them further. Now, this goes on. I just think it's worth it. I'd be happy to send this to any of you that want to read it. But I don't want to keep going because I could. I love to talk statistics. I love to talk numbers. But do you have questions for me?
Thank you, Michelle. Questions for Michelle?
I have a statement or a comment that I'd like to make, not necessarily a question, because we've talked at length of this in the past. But I have, I fielded a lot of calls on this issue. Probably since 16, there was questions about the election. 18, there was questions about the election. But never, I have not heard a single concern or complaint about our county clerk or our township clerks. And I want to make that very clear. Especially as heated as this has gotten, I still have not heard concerns about our clerks, in the townships, yourself, our workers, everybody that has called me about the elections has wanted to make that very clear, that they're very confident that we are doing the best we can in this county.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Holger.
Thank you, Michelle, for your presentation. You've done it before. I'm sure that it's important information for everyone here. And thank you. I want to reiterate that I have sat in precincts on election day for years. I've done poll training. I have stayed till midnight to watch the impeccable job that our township clerks and workers do on elections. They are proud of what they do. They are so proud. I love to see that. They work together. Our elections, you have trained excellent people here, and we can always feel confident in our elections. Last election, I was in the Casson precinct from 6 in the morning till I left at 10 because I was running myself. I decided I better go home and see if I won or not. I'm going to do that again this year. I'm not sure which precinct I'll go to, but I figure it's a good way to spend election day. It's interesting. I love the process. I appreciate your years of dedication to our having fair elections in this county. And I sure hope after this election, our county election staff, our clerk, will be lauded once again for an excellent, excellent, and fair election.
Commissioner Rushton, and then
Yes,
Commissioner Bailey.
I also am a trainee poll worker under Michelle Crocker. Although I did not work with Dominion, I worked with the AccuVote machines. But from what I can tell, the process is the same. The poll book, the applications, and the tape, they all have to match. When they don't match, we don't go home. If they don't match and they get turned in, we come back anyway. But Michelle, as I've said in the past, she dots her I's and crosses her T's. I don't think that's what the citizens of this county are coming to us complaining about. I believe their complaint is with those machines that are hooked up to the internet and have the opportunity to be tweaked. And I believe Michelle spoke to that and says, our machines are not hooked up. So I know from my experience, at the end of the night, when they ran those tapes, those numbers have to match with the applications, with the paper ballots, period. I feel assured with this process that we use in this county that we are getting correct election results. However, as I mentioned, I think the problem is with the machines, and I don't know that it could be just Dominion, it could be any machine that is hooked up to the internet where there could be a hack of some sort. So I don't think it's fair to discriminate in that regard, because it is a possibility. So the thing is, if we are hooked up to the system, I don't know how that would, how we can rely on those results when they are hooked up to the system. So I hear both sides of this issue. And I'm not quite sure how that gets resolved locally. If we are not engaging in that, it has to be at the state level.
Please.
There are no systems hooked up to me. I mean, Grand Traverse now doesn't even use VPN or modem in the results. They make everyone wait, and the people did not like it last election. I am still authorized to use a virtual private network, but then they're taken into secure files, and then they're placed into a program that is not hooked up to any internet. None of those machines that are scanning, that are tabulating those, are hooked up. And again, any losing candidate has the right to ask for a recount. We can only say they're not hooked up to the internet so much. And what I was explaining to the individual, because everything is being looked at PRISM through 2020, even if you were to make a law that says do not hook to the internet, and someone's going to go, gotcha, you must have been hooked up to the internet, because if you weren't, why do you need a law? Well, I'm trying to make people happy, because there are procedures, and if the procedures that are in place are followed, that's good. I do want to, if I can, just two things. We hear a lot about paper jams. In August, we do expect jams in the ballot, especially in 80 county boards. We encouraging the live precincts, those ballots not being kept oil taken away because they will swell. These are not air-controlled rooms, and they get a little bit wider. My own ballot came spitting back out at me because I didn't put it in correctly. But we see a lot of jams in our 80 county boards. A ballot can be inserted 4 different ways. So we need to be mindful of that. The other thing that we do not have, and I know it was a question out in the public at one of the public accuracies, ballot imaging is not turned on any of our machines. It is not turned on. It does not serve any purpose. We don't need to capture those images of the ballots. We have the real thing. And when we get to a recount, that's what we're going to look at. When we have to bring workers in, imaging serves no purpose whatsoever. Through some jurisdictions, I know of one that does it up in a different county, but we're going to keep that turned off because we're going to work with live ballots and imaging.
Thank you. Commissioner Bailey?
Well, I too printed off that whole form because I thought, okay, there's some very valid answers there. And if you look at page 6, all the issues and allegations are listed that people are bringing up here. And then the research behind each one of those allegations is included. And you were reading from the concluding page. You didn't read the further one. We further commend the innumerable clerks and canvassers and staff workers, volunteers across Michigan that make the enormous complexity of elections operate so smoothly so often. The complexity of the work and the dedication we discovered are astounding and worthy of our sincerest appreciation. We also commend the diligent citizens that took time to report problems and concerns they saw because they want and value their fair and free elections above party or personal gain. If all citizens remain vigilant and involved, we will emerge stronger after any challenging time. So thank you for your presentation and all your sincere efforts.
Yes, and thank you. But I hate to prolong it, but I have one question. I read in the Washington Post yesterday that clerks' offices across the country are getting swamped with repeated requests for information. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and my comments have nothing to do with transparency. I'm happy to give anyone anything I can. It would appear orchestrated. They're hitting, when they come out in bulk to every county clerk, to every township. Some of the people that are sending them don't understand the time involved, and it's not about the time, it's about the energy, but it is taking away from our focus, which is trying to get everything ready for the November. Some of the FOIAs really don't even, because they are taken, it would appear off a prepared list of what to ask for. It's not proper terminology on there. I mean, I'm being asked for adjudication logs. I don't have adjudication logs. I don't know what state that terminology comes from. I have a feeling I know what they might be asking for, but that's not what they're asking for. Question, FOIA is in the Q&A. It's producing reports. It's troublesome. It's not troublesome in answering the FOIAs. We get them. In that article, I did kind of glance at it. One clerk had to ask for more staff just to handle the FOIA requests. We have, Jen and I have several FOIAs that are sitting there, but I've got to get ballots. I mean, we have to comply by timelines to get these things out, but we have to comply to get the FOIAs out. And so it is, FOIAs are always welcome, but it's consuming that as we're trying to crunch for an election, all of a sudden we're getting hit massively. It seems odd to me.
Thank you.
Not to get the information, just the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming today. And Lynn, thanks for your coaching of Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
I was sure glad to see everyone who is this interested in our election process.
Commissioner Rushton has suggested we take a break at this time, so we will take a 10-minute break. Please, no more than 10 minutes. Could everybody take a seat if you're going to stay? And we will begin with a presentation update on the early childhood program with Michelle Klein. Michelle, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hello again, everybody. So I just wanted to give you all an update of where we are now with our early childhood program, in communities. And I understand also as you're getting into your budget process, we can talk about what we're anticipating for next year. So I do have an updated sheet with some numbers. I will tell you, so the total parenting communities, the children enrolled, that number is 216. I apologize, it's not on your sheet. I just couldn't get the report to run correctly before I got this out. So that's a good number. Our goal was 300 unduplicated children. So I think we're doing a really good job. All of the other numbers are there. Some information I will share. So since June, I think it was back here the end of June, I believe, to give you all an update. We've had 48 new children enrolled. We are doing home visits for an additional 18 children and 15 families. Are there any questions about anything on here as far as the numbers go? Yeah, Melinda.
I was trying to follow where you were getting your numbers. What do you, is it on here?
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did you get did you guys?
Is it in
packet?
Yeah.
It's in the packet.
It looks like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Here, I have a copy.
Oh, it's okay. You can get it to us. I don't have time to read it right now. But I wanted to just ask you about your numbers. So you said you have 262 children enrolled. So what is enrolling?
That means they have had at least one interaction, direct service or direct interaction with staff.
Okay. So if they just show up at a play date, that's an enrolled.
That would be considered, yeah, one. Right.
Okay. So how and so as they sign in, and you're saying it's unduplicated, so as they sign in and they're putting their county down, which county they belong to, are you taking out all the Benzie and Grand Traverse County children?
We have very few actually that are showing up now, but yeah, absolutely.
But are they, you're going to my second question. So we still have children from other counties?
Occasionally we might get a couple, but there isn't anything significant. Certainly not anything that is causing any additional, or costing any additional money. We're very conscientious about that. So we're not, if a family were to show up and have a child from Benzie County, or we might have a child who's with grandma coming, we're not going to tell them they can't go to playgroup.
Other questions for Michelle?
Any questions as far as the numbers go? Well, I tell you, our team is feeling really good about this. That we started out rough again, beginning of the first quarter of the year, of course, because of COVID. And just the other day, one of them said, we feel like we've turned that corner a little bit, where the communities know what parenting communities is, instead of us always having to explain it, and are reaching out to us as well, like, hey, I heard about you, I like it, look to put that. So that was one of our goals that we wanted to achieve. Ultimately, what we'd love to see is that every family in the county, when a baby is born, they say, gosh, I need to get hooked up with parenting communities. I think we're on track. So, yeah, Deb.
I was just wondering, I don't have it in front of me, what's your budget number for this year, 2022?
What we're anticipating we're going to spend is between 530 and 550. That's on the bottom of this sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we anticipate.
Was that the amount budgeted?
Nope, it was
618?
620.
Six.
Yeah, we're a little bit less because, well, first of all, because we had a quarter about full activities. We also had a staff person who was out of work for a couple of months.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Rushing?
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Sots Little, do you have a question or comment?
Just as I look through things, I'm just so impressed with what the health department has done through the Parenting Communities program to really offer services to so many people and so many different types of services. And I'm hearing excellent comments throughout the community, and people are really taking notice and wanting to be a part of it. And I see you're getting plugged in all over the place with some of the new programs that are going on. They want parenting community staff to come and talk to their staff so that their parents and families that are participating in other programs are aware of this and can also join into parenting communities. So job well done. I don't have any specific questions, just a whole lot of praise for the way you carried this on.
Thanks, Patricia. Yeah, as I said, we have a pretty dedicated staff. Commissioner Rushing, do you have a question?
Yes, just a kind of a follow-up now that I found the information. You're anticipating that you're going to spend about $530,000 to $550,000 this year, but your 2023 budget actually increases by $200,000. For what reason?
I was anticipating that question.
Uh-huh.
So there are several reasons why. Well, first of all, we didn't spend as much as we thought we would this year, as I just said. But also, for next year, there's a few things happening. One is that we are anticipating, increased employee costs. We're hoping for a pay increase, a 3% pay increase. Health insurance, boy, our fellow agencies have been seeing, 20% increase in health insurance costs. So we won't know that until December. So I'm anticipating that. We're adding a parenting education program that will be pulling in some of the experts in our community, like Emily Kohler and Maggie Stratmoran and Amanda Stowe. And that will be something that we held monthly, so that'll be an additional cost. And one of the biggest and most significant is it's become really clear, as you all know, we've had this discussion, if we're going to really help to do something with our mental health system in this county to support that, we need some more social work time. We need more time to be not just providing direct social work services or counseling services, but somebody who can be part of the substance abuse committee here in the county and that can work on some of the behavioral health initiatives that are happening throughout the region and represent our county for Toronto's activities. So we're looking at hiring additional social work time next year as well. Do you have the sheet with the detailed budget? I know that was just something yesterday. Did anyone have that?
I don't know if that form that yet.
No.
Oh, well, gosh.
The budget.
Yeah, I have that. Sorry, I assumed you all had that, so it was a late.
Just pass it.
Oh, thank you.
There's more specific.
Passing down.
Let's take just a minute and look through this, and then we'll ask questions.
Sure.
We'll start with Gwen after Deb Rushing's question is answered, then we'll go to you, Gwen.
Well, actually, no, I was going to ask her to
Okay.
go into that.
Okay. Any questions from this? Commissioner Rushton, did you?
I'm just wondering what other mental health resources are available to these parents and kids
Currently, through this program, or just in general?
in general?
Well, we all know, we have a couple of, Emily and Amanda are both private practitioners who provide, that are infant mental health endorsed. But like everybody else, there's waiting lists, and there's insurance barriers, and there's transportation barriers, and it's just really difficult to get those in. And you're familiar with substance use, you're very familiar with the substance use concerns we have.
Are we dealing with the parents here, or are we dealing with the children in substance abuse?
Well, the parents are taking care of the children.
I understand that, but my question is, are we caring for the parents here, or are we caring for the children?
We're providing the direct mental health services generally with the parents. If the children need some kind of therapeutic services, that's appropriate, and that's something as well.
When we have a situation where there's drug use in the home, is that something that goes to law enforcement, or?
Well, it depends on the circumstances. So, we want to have our home visitors in the home to support that family. And if it's something that needs to be, there's required legally needs to be reported, then it's reported. Whether it's to Child Protective Services, it's usually the avenue we would go through, and they would do an investigation.
So if we have drug use in the home that is impairing our children, then that really is not your department, that's a different department.
I would disagree with that. It's a collaborative effort, absolutely. Because we are there, having somebody in that home frequently to support that family, make sure the kids are okay, support the parents' parenting, the parents' ability to parent effectively and safely. It's always, we want to wrap around that family in every way we can.
I have a bit of a concern with that. I think you're outside your scope.
What our staff is doing is not, we aren't providing the counseling about the addiction counseling. That's out of our scope. What we're providing is the support surrounding, how do you respond well to your children, how do you keep your children safe, what can we do to help you if you're going to use the as safe as you can or not use. I mean, it's a different kind of support, which is why I say it's collaborative. Just as an addiction counselor is not looking at how that mom is parenting her child either and helping to support that. That's not their job. So it's a group effort, and I know, Gwen and those who are in that field have a lot of experience with that. And I would be happy, this is not my area of expertise, the whole mental health piece, so I would be happy to have somebody like, an Emily or a Matt come in and speak more clearly about the different roles of the different people involved with substance use and families, if that would be helpful. We're very conscious of our scope of practice for sure.
Commissioner Rabbit.
Would it be fair to say that you're probably assisting CPS on this in a situation like this that were to happen?
Right, and if CPS is involved with a family, there's often, it's more than one person involved. It's everybody who's involved.
It's not just you guys.
Working together.
It just wouldn't be your group, it'd be outside the scope of, CPS and counselors.
They have their role.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Hogarth.
Okay, Sue.
I had my hand up. I will just add then, as someone who has done addiction counseling, I would have been very, very happy to know that there was also someone there helping with the children. Because if someone is in counseling for addiction, they're so self-focused. And they need that help, and those children need that help. So I'm glad that you are supporting them in that way.
You used
It's a tough time for kids.
You used the term wraparound, and that means that you get all of those resources and collectively and cooperatively work together to help.
And that's really the key, is everybody's on the same page with the same goals for the family and moving in that same direction.
Commissioner Lautner?
Yes, thank you. You've got some of your staff up above, and I expect that those are staff that does the programming, but at the bottom you have it, is that administration?
Those are the indirect costs.
So you've got those all listed indirectly, but that's actually staffing also.
Some of that is
So-
staffing, yeah, you know, payroll and IT.
So nearly another 100,000 on top of the 450,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry Jody couldn't be here this morning. I know she in the past, she's kind of given you the formulas for calculating that, but I'd be happy, you know, if there's any questions about that.
So you got admin, indirect costs, and what is PH?
PH is personal health, indirect costs, and then general. Indirect
Okay.
costs.
Oh, so personal health is probably yourself?
Well, and also there may be some billing and supervisories and, you know, health officer. Those kind of work. And again, I would say, Melinda, Jody's the one who gave you those specifics, and I'd be happy to send to you. I don't want to speak incorrectly or give you wrong
Thank you.
information. So,
And what is PHE?
PhD is Parents as Teachers. It's an evidence-based program.
Okay.
Commissioner Sos Little, did I see your hand up? Commissioner,
I'm sorry, unfortunately, the sound is not very great, but I'm catching most of what's being said. I was going to say, I'm glad to see that you have worked in the mental health component as part of the village. This is an excellent way of getting that going. And I think, I agree with what was being said. Wraparound services are so important in order to really address family needs in that department. So you've got the child that found in the same household that you are able to go in and to deal with some of the issues. So I don't have any questions. I like what you're doing.
thank you. Commissioner Rushton.
Yes, your new,
If I may, I was going to say, I think, aren't you scheduled December 1st in our budget process to actually get into some of the nitty gritties in terms of what's in your overall expenses, indirect costs, that kind of thing. Is that true? Check, you know?
I think that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow afternoon,
Yeah.
what information we need.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Commissioner Rushton.
yes, the new ask of 730,000, when you break down your enrollees, that's $2,786 per child. And I just want to remind you that some of our seniors in our county don't make that much money in their Social Security. And I would venture to say our numbers for our seniors are much higher, and your budget is just about what their budget is for next year.
Well, I certainly wouldn't take away from the needs our seniors have. They have incredible needs as well. So, but you know what? There is a lot of return on investment when it comes to investing in our children. They're the ones that are going into the school systems. They're the ones that are going to be working in our community. They're the ones that may or may not be involved in our court systems down the road. And so one does not take away from the other. You know, they're both equally important.
Well, people only have so much money.
Well, you know what, this is important work. It's up to you all to decide where the county feels they need to put the dollars.
Mr. Robbins.
Okay, I'm a little confused. Maybe you clarified, Commissioner Rushton. Are you saying it's $2,000 a year or $2,000 a month per child?
$2,700 allocated to each child
A year?
a year.
Okay. All right, well, the minimum Social Security, I think, is like $600 a month, so you do that over 12 months. I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's you know, the seniors are making more than $2,000.
And also, I will say, well, you know, I would like to see these numbers, and I anticipate these numbers will also increase in the next year.
Well, Michelle, I want to thank you for being here, and I had the opportunity last week to meet with you and get lots of questions answered, so thank you. But any further questions for Michelle?
Do you need information on indirect costs now, or should that wait until December?
We will be getting that information to you after our meeting tomorrow, or maybe after our discussion later today.
Let me know what you need.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to our action item, and the first item on the agenda is the Indigenous Peoples' Day Resolution. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes. In small print, I have to read this. So, a resolution to recognize the first day of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day. Whereas the county of Leelanau is situated on a peninsula of unique and unparalleled beauty, which provides a bounty to its residents through fertile land and access to Lake Michigan and the Grand Traverse Bay, and whereas the county of Leelanau would not exist, nor its residents enjoy its beauty and bounty, but for the annexation of its lands from the homelands of the Anishinaabe people who lived here since time immemorial and to the present day. And whereas the county of Leelanau understands that the historical relationship that brought it into being now wishes to recognize with gratitude the roots, history, contributions of the Anishinaabe people towards its existence, and whereas an international movement began in 1977 to initiate the Indigenous Peoples' Day by a delegation of Native nations to the United States, and whereas in 1990, representatives from 120 indigenous nations of the First Continental Conference on 500 Years of Indian Resistance unanimously passed a resolution to use Columbus Day as an opportunity to educate the public about Indian cultures that pre-existed European contact and still exist and thrive today. And whereas since 1990, numerous municipalities through the United States have incorporated the principles of the First Continental Conference by voting to institute an Indigenous Peoples' Day and to use the day to honor the culture, heritage, and contributions of their Native citizens and neighbors. And whereas in 1990, Congress passed a joint resolution requesting the President designate November as National American Indian Heritage Month by a proclamation of the President of the United States. And whereas Leelanau County wishes to extend recognition to and appreciation of its Anishinaabe citizens and neighbors and their shared history. Now therefore it be resolved that Leelanau County shall forthwith recognize the first day of October as Indigenous Peoples' Day, and further be it resolved that Indigenous Peoples' Day shall be used to reflect on the ongoing challenges posed to Indigenous people of this land and to celebrate their continued existence and future culture, and to honor and appreciate their commitment to protecting and preserving the earth, her resources, and all living beings. I wholeheartedly support that.
It's been resolved and seconded. Any discussion, suggestions, questions? Gwen?
I would love to see that on a plaque in our hallway. That's my only comment, in addition to supporting the motion. Yes, I think that's an appropriate thing to do. Create the plaque and post it prominently in the hallway.
Is that a motion?
I would make that motion.
Your amendment to the motion?
I would amend the motion to add that we create a plaque for our hallway.
Approve this resolution and place it in a plaque.
Thank you.
Is that Commissioner Lautner?
I would like to make a second amendment.
Okay.
That this go to our Buildings and Grounds Committee as policy first.
That's a motion. Does somebody second that?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I think that's our process, is that not?
We have used that process. I think we can waive that process and do whatever this group collectively wants to do. So let's have a discussion about the Second Amendment.
Okay, if I may.
Yes.
We've had some discussion about this in the past, and there has been a lot of different discussion. There's a question of where, a question of size. I'm trying to remember everything that came up, maybe cost, et cetera. And this is in resolution form, so there was a question of form. So that's my reason. I think we should just give it some thought on how that would be done.
I don't hear the amendment saying not to do it, but give it
Correct.
thought and plan how we do it. Okay. Any questions, any conversation that we need to have? Gwen?
So if it went to Buildings and Grounds, could they decide not to do it with that?
This commission will decide.
They would,
I just wanna
they would make a
clarify that.
recommendation to the full board. Just on the, whether a plaque, not if you pass a resolution or not, they have no authority to that. It's just whether it's placed in the building.
Whether it's placed in the
Yes.
building.
Yeah. They would come up with a recommendation that would then go to the full board.
But this body of 7 commissioners will make the final decision whether to accept the recommendation of the Building and Grounds Committee. And this is consistent, I think, with the way we've put display items on the, I don't think this is an exception to that.
So there's a question of aesthetics, is that what the in proportion and size and what this looks like on the wall? Is that?
Well, okay. If you don't mind, we have a policy that we just don't place. We get numerous requests over the years from internal and external groups. And we discussed it several years ago, and we decided there needs to be a process. We don't have a policy in place because once you have a policy in place, it binds you to a specific protocol and past practice. So we decided that we have a process in place that any request on this campus or the parks to modify either internally or externally, let's say a sign outside or plant a tree or something, would go through a committee, which is comprised of 2 commissioners. They would review it, then make a recommendation to the full board.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the 2 current board members are Commissioner Rushton and Commissioner Sosis Little, as I believe. We haven't met in a while, but I believe those are 2
Right.
commissioners.
Yeah, and if I may speak,
Yes.
I think to deviate from our process opens up a can of worms. We should stick with our process, determine like we have in the past, placement, size, scope, color. I mean, there's just a host of things that come up in that discussion. And I think it's a good process, and we typically bring that recommendation to the board and go from there, and we give our reasons why.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Robbins?
No, we can still go ahead and vote on the resolution and then just let the committee work on that end of it.
I think that what we have is a motion on the floor to approve the resolution and to send it to the Building and Grounds. And I think I also heard agreement that we want to put it on the wall, but we want to do it consistent with our policy.
Okay.
It's kind of messy because we got 2 amendments.
Yes.
So I think we need to vote on the second amendment first, which is that it goes to Building and Grounds. The first amendment next, which is that we display it in the building, and then we'll vote on the total motion.
Okay, so,
Yep.
so sending it to Buildings and Grounds, we're still approving the resolution today? Or do we need to separate those to clarify?
Depends on how you vote. You still could have passed the resolution, but if you agree to send it to Buildings and Grounds, then the committee will meet and come back with a recommendation whether to approve it, put it in the building, and if so, where, the type of size, the details of that.
I'd like to vote to approve this resolution.
Well,
We can divide the,
And I'm okay with sending it to Buildings and Grounds to decide what it will look like.
let's divide the motion. The first motion is to approve the resolution. Any questions on that or discussion?
We have a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
A commissioner asked that we divide the motion. We had, and I think that's appropriate.
Well, you have a motion and 2 amendments, so you really need to vote on the amendments. I think you can get to the end result. So the first vote would be on the amendment to send it to Buildings and Grounds.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
If you follow, you-
I heard,
Yeah.
I heard a request from the original
Yeah.
motion maker to divide the issue, but I
There's,
think we'll get
yeah,
there.
because there's only one motion on the table, the other ones are amendments. If there was a multiple layer
Okay.
motion, then you could divide it up, but it's only one motion.
You can tell I'm new at this, can't you?
But the end result will be
It's
there.
confusing at this point. Yeah.
Well, let's vote on the second amendment, which is that we will send it to Buildings and Grounds. All those in support of that amendment?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. The first amendment was that we display it in the building. All those in support of that motion?
If I may speak to that.
Yes?
I also believe that that should also go to Building and Grounds, because we can decide a couple things. We can display it in the building. We need to decide where in the building it's going to hang. Or Building and Grounds may come up with a different idea as far as maybe putting it at the entrance of the building, or putting it in our garden, or it could be any number of things. I think both of those things really belong to Buildings and Ground first, and with a recommendation to the board. If you're going to display it in the building, where are you going to put it? You're going to put it in the lunchroom downstairs? You're going to put it in the women's bathroom? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't
So
think
it's
that's the
okay.
purpose of the amendment. I think the amendment was we will display it in the building, and then we're going to send it to Buildings and Grounds to come back with a recommendation. But I'll let you speak, and then Rick?
I don't mind Buildings and Grounds making a suggestion on where we put it, but I think that where we put it, and I would appreciate suggestions, but I think it's our decision about where it goes.
Well, it will, no matter what Building and Grounds does, there'll be a recommendation, it'll go to the full board, and yes, you 7 have the final authority. You can accept, reject, or modify the recommendation.
Yes, Jim?
I have it in my notes that the amendment is to create a plaque. So I just want to make sure that that's what I have, that you're voting on, that it seats.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Commissioner Robbins?
I don't want to narrow it down just to building. I mean, let the committee, I say building or grounds. I mean, they may come up with an idea of, have the Native Americans, tribe, maybe work with us. Maybe they want to
Put a flag
a
up.
stone with a plaque on out here somewhere on our property. So I don't want to just narrow it down to a wall. I think we need to broaden it out and let the committee decide, and it can come back to us, and we can go from there.
So this amendment is to create a plaque.
Yeah.
The Building and Grounds Committee will come back with a recommendation of where that should be displayed, and this group will collectively decide whether to accept or modify the Building and Grounds recommendation.
Okay, so
Your amendment was to create a plaque with this resolution.
So, we approved the second amendment. Do we need to approve this one
I
as well? or
think the
can we-
easiest, if you could just withdraw the first amendment,
I think so.
because you already agreed to send it to Buildings and Grounds.
Yeah, because I'm thoroughly
Yeah,
confused too.
that'd be the simple, because you're all saying the same thing.
I'm willing to withdraw that.
Thank you very much. Is the second willing to withdraw?
Withdraw, yes.
We now have a main motion on the floor,
There
a
we go.
resolution. All those in support of the resolution as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We have it approved 6-0, and thank you for the
you.
patience with my awkward running of that discussion.
And our awkward amendments.
Let me just ask for a point of clarification. For the last 5-6 years, we also placed an ad in the Enterprise with the resolution.
That's a good idea.
There was a little bit of controversy last year over that. And so I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking for guidance if you'd like to have that in the first issue of October in the Enterprise.
I would like to move that we place an ad in the Enterprise with this resolution in full.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
We now have the agreement with Lyft.
Yeah, and we have our two coordinators here. As you know, in 2016, the county was one of the first counties in the region and one of the first in the state to form a substance abuse prevention task force, much to the vision of Commissioner Rushton. And we have been meeting on a regular basis since that time. We've gone through some leadership changes. Last year, at this time, we formed a partnership with Lyft. And that has worked out well. We agreed to a one-year contract, and that is about to expire. And so my recommendation that we renew it again for the same terms and conditions as we've had it in the past year. I think Rebecca and Audrey I've asked them just to give a brief update on their activities. I think we have formed partnerships with the local schools now. They were kind of dormant with COVID. We received a grant, a $50,000 grant that they're working on. So a lot of progress is being made, and we're having our first meeting of the new academic year because school started Friday with Lyft. So if you want to just introduce yourselves and just give a brief update.
Sure. I'm Rebecca Tenbrink, and very excited to be here today, so thank you very much. And I'm Audrey Sharp, I'm the Associate Director at Lyft. So providing a little update on what we did last year and kind of where we're headed this year. We've been grateful to collaborate with the Leelanau County Commission so closely through the Substance Misuse Prevention Coalition. Ahead of our contract renewal, we wanted to highlight some successes from the previous year. So we restructured the coalition into 3 work groups. One is community engagement, identifying and bolstering existing alternative activities. The second is capacity building and education, which is updating the strategic plan, identifying training opportunities for the coalition and community members. And the third is research and needs assessment. So we are currently in the midst of guiding Leelanau County's first epidemiological study. As Chet said, we did receive a $50,000 grant through the C3 Prevention Network. $25,000 of that is used for the epidemiology study. $18,000 increases leadership time and dedication to the coalition, which is how we were able to bring on Audrey. $4,000 is for community engagement efforts. And then $3,000 is for trainings and education. So far, the coalition has sponsored activities within the community through Lyft, which we put on assist and safe talk. So assist is applied suicide intervention. And then also each school was provided a stipend for their proms. So that is where we are at, and we are looking forward to this upcoming school year to finish out the epidemiology study and then to begin implementing the different activities that we plan to do given our targeted, I guess you could say, demographics and drug misuses.
Commissioner Rushton, there's a motion in the board packet. Would you like to make that and then have discussion?
Sure. I would move to recommend that the Board of Commissioners waive the policy on bid requirements and renew an agreement between Leelanau County and Leelanau Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition as presented. Funds to come from 967019.
Support.
A question. On the epidemiology study, will you provide that for all of the commissioners?
Yes.
So that we can see what those numbers look like? And is that something you're going to present Friday to the board?
Well, it's not, we're in the midst of the study, so there's multi-layered.
Okay.
And all the things we need to collect.
And what's the end date for that?
End of year.
End of,
End of year.
end
So
of year,
December, by
okay.
December, we should have the full publication of the report.
Okay, great, good job, thank you.
Do you have a comment? Gwen?
No, I see.
Any other questions? Commissioner Sotis Little, do you have a question or a comment? Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank them for their incredibly, and you're tireless. Thank you. And you're wonderful for our kids.
Thank you very much. We now have the information technology with our technology experts here. Thank you, and thanks for your patience today, Jeff and Lene.
Good morning.
Morning.
Still,
Yeah, still.
We are here to request approval to implement phase 2 of a server consolidation plan that was started last year. This project will replace several servers that are almost end-of-life and out of support. This will also include all the required software and licensing that we need for this project. Include additional data storage, dedicated server to run our backup software, and provide an off-site backup storage location for disasters.
Well, Jeff, you want to give more details of why we want to do this now?
Sure. We started with Ron last year, putting together, well, we were asked by Ron and by Chet to kind of go over everything that we had that we thought was technology-wise that could be deficient or needing work or needing looking over. We put together a list. We prioritized that list. And at the time, Ron had budget to purchase the first phase of what he had and then set budget for this year to do the second phase because he didn't have enough budget. The servers that we've got out there, there are 7 that are actually, as Leanna said, getting old or are old. So I'll give you an example real quick here. We have a server that's 10.7 years old, has been out of warranty since 2015, and happens to have portions of your telephone system running on it, and your phone vendor has been saying for 4 years, please, please, please take care of this. So that we're putting together a system that will allow for higher availability of your servers. Right now, there are a bunch of separate servers. We're going to put them into a what's called a SAN and a virtual environment. So modernizing it and future-proofing it. So
Questions for Lee? Any questions for either one of them? Yes, Deb?
You budgeted 55,000 for this and it's coming in at 68,1. So what's the difference? Where?
The prices have gone up. The scope changed slightly from last year when we put it together. And we've had increases from Dell and other vendors.
Do you have, thank you for that, is there, in the fund, is there enough money for that?
Yeah.
So is something else going to suffer because we're spending this $13,000 over that budgeted amount?
I don't believe so.
I leave the term, yeah, and if, we don't want to suffer with IT issues, so if things unexpectedly break down, which could happen, we'd have to come back to the board, but at this time, based on our meetings, and we're trying to take a more proactive approach and not wait till things break down to replace them.
Well, we've had some things break down.
Yeah, that we've,
6 weeks.
that we've come to the board with last time that Jeff came here, but we're trying to be more proactive, and you'll hear more about our requests for next year during the budget process because we do have some ideas of things we want to do, including the Wi-Fi here in the building.
Public Wi-Fi, firewalls,
Yeah.
and a few other.
But you'll get a bigger picture of what we hope to do next year during our budget process.
And Leanne, I hope that includes some projection upgrades downstairs. Good.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going. We do have a budget meeting tomorrow that we can take a deeper dive. I was just wanted to make sure that we had funding for this in your budget for today.
Yes.
And we always put some money in there for unexpected needs like this. So we're pretty confident, you just never know with IT, but we're pretty confident we will stay within our budget for
That's
this-
why I asked
for
the
this year.
question, so.
And I know you always do, and
Mr.
I told them
Chairman.
that we'd be prepared for you to ask that question.
I would make the recommendation that the Board of Commissioners waive its policy on bid requirements and approve the purchase of a VMware server software and installation from SafetyNet in the amount of $68,141 with funds to come from Data Processing Fund number 636.
Support.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Danae and Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get it. I'll get your name.
I'll give you one more chance.
We now have on our agenda the Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Leanna.
All right, you got it.
We have a renewal agreement with Suttons Bay Village.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners allow the Leelanau County Sheriff's Office to enter into a 3-year agreement with the Village of Suttons Bay to supply one full-time deputy for calendar years 2023 through 2025, and further authorize the board chairman and the sheriff to sign and execute the agreement.
Support.
Any discussion or questions?
Same,
Yes.
same agreement,
Same
Nothing
contract.
changed in the agreement other than the dates.
okay, that's,
Short of the fact, it's a 3-year agreement, first time we've had that in 4 years.
okay.
What was the last one, 2 years?
We've been running year to year.
Year to year. So why the 3-year request?
We've been making that request for the last several years, but 4 years ago, they had gotten a new village manager.
Oh,
And he
okay.
was trying to get his
Ducks.
together before he was comfortable going 3 years, and now we've successfully been able to do that.
Well, good.
Any other questions? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We now have a renewal agreement with the Grand Traverse Band on animal control services.
And I passed out a piece of paper there, professional services contract, and that is what the tribe requires with these type of contracts. We have the same thing, we have had the same thing for several years. It was a little delayed getting it from the tribe. Technically, it is a 2-piece agreement, but I can tell you 3 years ago, when this was renewed the last time, both the service contract with tribe as well as the contract were all renewed under one resolution, or one board motion.
Commissioner Lautner?
Okay. Yes, I would move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve a renewal of and to allow the board chair to sign the agreement for animal control services between Leelanau County and the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians until September 30, 2025, pending review and approval of corporate council.
Support.
I might add, Mr. Chairman, it has come back from corporate council, it has been approved as submitted, so that
Okay.
has changed since it's submitted. Yes.
Perfect.
Any other questions? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. We now have the Finance Audit Committee recap.
Yeah, and Darcy Weaver was hoping to present this, however, she had a meeting in Traverse City that I miscalculated when I put this on the agenda. I thought would be at this point a little quicker, so apologize for Darcy not being here. But as Ty mentioned, the Finance Audit Committee met several weeks ago, and looked at two options, two different issues, and they're both on the agenda. The first is a wage study. As you remember, this spring, you authorized to go out to solicit bids. We had dialogue with 4 companies. 2 declined to set together a proposal, and 2 present us a proposal to do a wage study. And they're in your package. One is from Municipal Consulting Services. The other one is from Raymond. This is to do a wage study only for the non-union personnel. So I just want to clarify that. And their costs are based on that. But the committee felt that this was a significant issue, and it should be full dialogue with all 7 board members. So I believe the committee did not make a recommendation either way, other than to pass it on, that all 7 of you need to be involved in discussion whether we're going to go forward with a wage study or not. There's been dialogue about that. And it's kind of a link to the second topic about mid-year wage adjustment also. So we did follow through. In your package, you have 2 proposals to a wage study based only on non-union personnel, and the costs are about the same, between $20,000 and $22,000. One can start fairly soon. The other company would have to wait until next year to start the study, if you wish to proceed with the study. So the committee did not have a recommendation.
Commissioner Lautner, would you like to provide further detail on the Finance Committee's discussion on this?
I can't think of anything further that I would want to add to it. That's absolutely right. We did not come to a conclusion on it. So.
Commissioner Rushton, then Commissioner Alter.
In some of our previous discussions, we've talked about the pros and the cons of actually doing a wage study. So I'm really curious as to what the goal or the objective was in requesting a wage study proposal. Typically, and going through the material that they sent us, the information is readily available to us in a request from these different agencies. If we want to look at their wage and study reports, we can get them. The most recent was Grand Traverse County's wage study that they did last December. That study is available to us. I've reviewed that study. Our HR department has that study. And personally, I gleaned a lot of information from that study. Granted, our population is different, but our positions are the same. And I believe Chet mentioned if we do a study and then we decide not to increase wages, now we have disgruntled employees because they feel that they've been told they have a certain value and this board has denied them that value. So I think it's a slippery slope. I think what we need to do is review Grand Traverse County's survey report so we can compare what our wages look like as compared to them. I wouldn't be surprised if we find a lot of our employees being paid a bit more. They have made some adjustments over the last couple months to bring their wages up. But for us to go out and spend $25,000 on a study, I think is a waste of money. We can utilize those dollars to increase wages if we must, or where it's necessary. But I think to do this willy-nilly is just kind of a waste of time and a waste of money. And I think it can create problems in the building moving forward. So, Chet, I would ask you to have our HR department forward that information so all of the commissioners can review that study. And I really would like to see the finance department take this back and look at that in depth and maybe have a recommendation.
Let me just follow up on that because about your comments, and it's a slippery slope. You're absolutely. Let me just give a few pros and cons. I think we started this process last year, the budget process, about some of the salaries maybe not being comparable, and then had dialogue, and some commissioners felt we should do a wage study, and so you authorized us to go out and bids, and we do that. And we're not making a recommendation that we go through one of these other ones at this point. The pros of doing a wage study, you get a third-party independent overview, and they look at the job descriptions. I'll use example, Trudy Gala. You can't compare a planning department in Leelanau to Benzie versus Grand Traverse because Trudy does a lot of extra things. Recycling is not part of her duties, the Remon, other things. So you get a third party coming in here to do it, review it, make recommendation. I've been through it 3 times, and it's both 3 times at different places I've worked. The board has failed to follow up on the wage study recommendation. And that's the worst case scenario, because what you do, you publish a report, they make recommendations, it's public. Some people are going to be recommended for raises, and if you don't follow up on that, it does create tremendous hard feelings inside. I can tell you prior to the one that Grand Traverse County did, and Grand Traverse County actually decided they were going to do raises anyway. They did one several years ago. They spent $90,000. It came to board, and they didn't take any action, and that caused tremendous internal controversy. So if you're going to do a wage study, you have to do it prepared to follow through on it. Because if you don't, you cause more internal dissension. So that's the negative thing. The pro is it's very difficult not to get emotions and personalities involved when you do it internally, no matter how you do it. No matter how you do it, there always are perceived winners and losers. There's no fair way to do it. I was part of a county administrators conference call on this. There was maybe 40 of us, and one new administrator said, well, let's just take all the politics out of it and bring a wage consultant in to look at our salaries. And we all kind of chuckled at it because there is no way to do it that's not going to be perceived as being judgmental. So if you're going to do it knowing you're going to have to implement the results. If you choose not to do it, we do have the Grand Traverse County. Darcy has received some other ones from other counties. The challenges with that is to compare apples to apples. And like I said, Trudy is the best example, because if you just look at a planning director, it's some, and we all know Mrs. Gala just loves extra assignments. And so, but seriously, if you look at the planning department, what the planning department does in Leelanau County may be different than Osceola or Wexford. So if you just look at salaries, it's not fair. That's the challenge. You can, some jobs like register of deeds, it's pretty basic. Other jobs, people take on extra duties, responsibilities, then get shifted from one office to a different office. So that's why it's difficult just to look at the salary and say, okay, this is what it should be.
Gwen, and then Rick, and then Patricia.
I hear all of the pros and cons. What I do recall from last year is learning that the salary levels in our building were arrived at pretty haphazardly and just kind of assigned years ago. And there are serious problems and inequities. I think our staff does an excellent job. Everyone here is very professional. They work hard. And I think it's our job as their employers to make sure that they're paid fairly and that we're willing to take a look at that. To dodge it just says, do we really care? I think we need facts. And I think we need a fair look at how people are being paid.
Thank you. Commissioner Robbins?
Since I'm on the Finance Committee, we could do the wage study, but that's kind of, our figures are all over the board. I mean, it's 25,000 maybe at this end, and it could be as high as 50. And it's a lot of money to spend. We don't know what the results are gonna be. Could make some people happy, some people could lose, some could gain. And I wish she was here. I've been working with Patricia, and she's been doing a lot of the work, but I've been working with her, and I guess what I'd like to propose is skip the wage study and kind of compromise what Grand Traverse had there. And what I would be proposing, or Patricia and I together, be a one-time payout of $750 on the first payroll. And then after that, well, let me back up a little bit. The $750 payout to all the employees across the board, it's like 127, 123. It would come out to about $92,250 for that. And then starting the first pay period, we would, hang on a second here, we would give them a 3% pay increase. And that total would be $230,717.97. And that would get them up there. It'd really help our people that are down at the lower end, but it's across the board. It's for all the employees. They're all going to benefit. I wish Patricia was here so she could have presented this, but
She does have her hand up, and so she can piggyback on to you when you're.
Yeah, I lost you in the last discussion somehow, but it looks like we moved on to the wage mid-year adjustments. Again, and thank you so much for starting this discussion, Rick. And if I'm repeating things, stop me. I think we looked at a couple of, Rick and I were talking about looking at a couple of important factors. One was that people need money now. So the lump sum idea was to give money now, where people can use it and are really kind of hyper dealing and coping with the tuition inflation. And that it was important to be fair, not only help people while they're struggling, but if we went just a straight % increase, then those with higher salaries get a lot more, and those with lower salaries who really need it aren't getting as much. And so that was a consideration. And the idea of combining a lump sum with an increase over time and help to battle that inflation problem ongoing into the following year and beyond. So, Rick, did you want me to offer the motion, or have you already?
I didn't make a motion. I just wanted to throw it out there for discussion. And I can make a motion, but I was hoping you were here to make the motion.
Excuse me, just so.
I will. Make the motion.
We have not finished our other.
No, she cannot make a motion.
Right, I know she can't. I was hoping to see. I will make the motion.
But I think we need to either dispense with the wage study proposal, unless your motion includes that, because we have not.
I sent you a motion.
Okay.
Rick is prepared. Rick is prepared to make the motion that you sent him, but what I'm saying is we still are on the wage study agenda item for our discussion. We have not resolved that. So we need to resolve that before we move forward.
We haven't gotten past the wage discussion.
That is correct. That is correct. Commissioner Lautner?
May I weigh in on that, because that's where I thought we were moving when it kind of derailed.
Yes, you may.
I've always been supportive of that, because I think we've been following the trap of developing adjustments to certain salaries to the deputies and our new finance director, and it was really not done in a cohesive way that made sense. Plus, if I looked at this, and I'm not sure I'm right, we're not covering all the employees. We're just covering, what happens to a lot of our sports staff? They're not being considered to do this for the 25,000, which kind of surprised me.
The study was only for the non-union. If we were to get the union involved, we'd have to open the contracts and have dialogue with them. So that's why the initial proposals, and we could if the boards wanted, we could certainly expand the proposal from the two companies. Well, that's why we chose simply to get some numbers to do with all non-union, which would include the elected officials. But if you include the union into a study and the results, then that's a different process we would have to. I mean, it can happen, but to get a simple proposal, to get dialogue started, we asked them to submit proposals based on non-union employee positions.
Okay, because okay. Because I was looking at a lot of the union employees, and when you've got the work staff who really, it seems unfair to look at just in one and not looking at the other and how the whole picture fits together. I realize, and I apologize for not being able to be there. It's very probably, you're probably having the same trouble hearing me as I'm hearing you. So if this gets pushed forward, I will be able to be there the next Wednesday to discuss this if there aren't unanimous decisions of what to do right now. But my apologies for not being able to really weigh in on what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Patricia. Commissioner Lautner, you had your hand up?
Yes, I'm not in favor of doing a wage study at this time for many of the reasons given. So I just, for sake of time, that's all I'm going to say on it. So I'm a no.
I think I mentioned at the Finance Committee that I thought we had major responsibility to make sure we get an administrator hired and complete the broadband implementation plan, and that this should be pushed off until next year. That was my view, and I still feel that way, that we could the new board could look at this next year, and I would propose that we don't do it now. But does anybody want to make a motion?
On the wage study you're talking about?
On the wage study. I guess we have no motion, so we will.
Well, I would be comfortable with that only if we agree to make some adjustments during our budget process, just some of the positions that are way out of whack. Our senior services director her income is way out of line with where it should be and for her responsibilities. For instance, if we can agree to make some adjustments in our budget process, I sure want to look at this next year. Paying our people is one of the most important things we do. Paying them appropriately.
Thank you. Commissioner Rushing?
I'm really very uncomfortable about this whole conversation. We've got two commissioners that have worked on a project together and come up with a great idea. Finance department met. I'm not sure what that discussion was in regards to this. And now we're going to have a motion put on the floor so we can vote for this. But we haven't looked at all of the ideas. Do we all have a list that tells us what each employee makes? Do we know what percentage of their wages are part of our budget? Sitting at this table trying to make a decision? There's just not been enough. There's not been enough homework done to make these decisions. I have an idea. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't work. I really think if we're going to take on such a big decision like this, I think we should sit down and have a meeting specifically about wages. We need to know what their wages are today. I couldn't tell you what all these people in this building make. That information's not been provided to me.
I want to respond as one commissioner. This is not the first meeting we've had on this topic.
I understand that, but we still don't have the information, do we?
Let me finish. We had a list of employees and all of their wages. We've talked about a wage study several times. We've looked at some inequities. We agreed that we wanted to take a look at a proposal, go out for a proposal. That proposal, those bids came in. The Finance Committee looked at it. Now the question on the table is, do we want to do something with that, or do we want to move it forward to next year?
Are you talking about the wage study? I
That,
thought we moved on from that.
that is the agenda item we're on.
There was no motion on the floor. I assumed we moved on.
I
She,
started
she,
talking.
she just started talking about it.
I guess
We
not.
have not finished our discussion on wage study. Do we have a motion on the wage study?
Yes or no? I would move that we address this issue in January of 2023, and though make adjustments in our budget process that are needed this year.
Just to clarify, that
So
is the
look at
next, that's a different board, and you can't commit for them.
I
You
can't
can-
commit for
You
them?
can suggest that they do it, but that's a decision as of January 1st that board would have to make. You can suggest that they do it, but it'll be a different board and a different term.
So the other part of that is not an appropriate motion for right now, so.
I think what you're asking for is our topic for our meeting tomorrow when we talk budget process.
Yeah.
For this, for next year.
Okay.
Commissioner Lautner, you had something to say?
Well, I have a question, and then I do have something to say. So have we moved on now? Are we moving past the wage study?
We have no
No
motion,
motion,
so
thank
I
you.
think we move on to the mid-year wage adjustment.
Okay, so I was a little uncomfortable with this because we are going into union negotiations. So I guess my question is, I'm sitting here kind of thinking, do we do a mid-year wage adjustment going into negotiations? Are we looking at just doing this for non-union employees? Are we doing this across the board? And Commissioner Rushton said she may have an idea of something we can do too. So it's kind of it's a one question and a question.
I can address part of that. Any changes to union contract, including the pay scale, would have to be negotiated with the union. Because we do have contracts with 5 of the 6 unions through 2024.
Okay, so well, that is simple enough. We say, yeah, we're going to give you a increase. My guess is the union's going to take it.
Most likely, yes.
But we are going into negotiations, so is this something we ought to be looking at mid-year? I know other counties
Subjective calls,
have,
that's up to
but,
7 of you. Will it impact negotiations? Absolutely.
Okay.
How, it's difficult to say.
Okay. And then I did want to hear your proposal.
Commissioner Robbins and then Commissioner Rushton.
Did you want me to pass? I asked Ty, he made copies. Did you want to pass them out? Did you? No, I know. Did you want to pass it to everybody else?
Yeah, sure.
Just in case. I don't know. I gave it. Should be enough.
Okay, I'm going to move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners, Leelanau County 2022 mid-year proposal lump sum, $750. That will include all employees, union and non-union. And on top of that, I would propose, after that, a wage increase of 3%. And let me back up a little bit. All right, now that's my motion. The 750 and 3%.
Just so clear, the 3% would be effective when?
First pay period.
First, with the.
September 24th?
Whenever.
You're talking about this Not for next year.
If we improve, yeah,
I
yes.
just want to clarify
yes, Yeah,
that.
it'd be effective this year.
Starting September 24th.
And would that 3% be on the scale or off the scale? Because if it's on the scale, then it keeps continuing year after.
No, it's off the scale.
So it would not
Is it
impact
all
our.
right? No. Oh, it's on the scale, excuse me.
Okay,
All right, okay. Yeah, me too.
Right, so it says,
Commissioner Lautner? We've got a motion. Do we
Yes, have a motion.
have a second? I support. Commissioner Lautner?
so I guess, looking at the second part of your proposal is to give a 3% wage increase, you say starting September 24th to December 31st, but this would start September 24th and never go away. It does not end. So it's a 3% increase across the board beginning September 24th. That's and you also want to do a stipend. So in your stipend is $750 per employee for $92,250. And the associated costs with that are $106,000.
No, that's the total.
Oh, that's the total.
Yep, so 92.5 is
Okay,
750.
thought that was a little high. Okay,
Yep.
so your FICAs and your MERS and everything else, it comes to 106,000. What are those, what is the impact on those? If we put that in there, pay that, is there future costs carried on from the one-time into the future, or those one-time FICAs and one-time MERS? The 3% is carried on.
Yeah, the only exclusion I mentioned, and I don't think I put that in the literature when Patricia was asking about that, you have 44 employees that are locked in at a MERS rate. So those groups that you closed, of the 123, there are some that are not MERS. And I'm going that to this portion as well as to a 3%. So of the 123, Marine are included currently if they were on the payroll at the time of this count, which was last night. And then also your bailiffs and any part-time. And then so your bailiff, your seasonal employee at Park and Rec, and your Marine would not have MERS. I did a configuration here of a total of 7.87% off of the total wages, but that only reflects the 123 minus 44. When you closed your MERS groups and you locked those in, that is an actuarial number that is produced by MERS, and it's the liability that you owe for the year divided by 12 months. So the MERS rate actually comes in less, but for the numbers that I was asked, it's just easier to plug it. That's not going to be what the number is, but I just wanted to reflect that.
So just to clarify, the 750 would be off the scale. That'd be a one-time payment, not part of the scale.
Correct.
The percentage increase would be on the scale, and that would change all the pay scales. And then next year, because we have labor contracts, the 3.25 would be added to the revised pay scale pending union agreement.
Yes.
So so what you've got is the next year, the 3% pay increase.
How do you know it's 3%?
I'm just saying, if he gives us 3% this year, the cost is $62,000 for the remainder of the year. But next year, that cost of $237.17 is going to be there also.
Yes.
That's what's next year's
That
cost
would
is
be
for doing this.
what you would do within your budget. So what you have proposed for 2023 and adding this amount.
I have a question, and I think part of your rationale in proposing this was the 8% or 8.5% cost of living increase
Yes.
this year. So this is an adjustment to address inflation and.
It was a little bit of that, and then, I looked at the Grand Traverse study. I mean, they got 9%, but if you really look at it, it's broken down in a lot of different categories for them to get to 9%. So that's why I went with the 3%.
Patricia, do you have anything to offer?
Unfortunately, what I'm hearing on this is so garbled, I'm not sure what the motion is, but I assume that's kind of what Rick, you and I had offered to give jointly. So, my only thing is, we thought it would be good to have a lump sum to deal with now, because people need money now. And then a percent increase that would be the ongoing help buffer the inflation going forward. So, and it's important that everybody gets. Everybody get both, not just certain classifications. So that's probably been said by Rick already. And then if MERS, that it would not be excluded from the MERS, that it would be included going forward, because it's not that much. Jeff and Greg kindly gave you the figures on that, and I think that's what has been passed out there, I think. So that would be the only thing I want to emphasize. I'm sure it's already been said, if I could hear it.
Thank you. Commissioner Rushton.
Yeah, I'm just curious, inflation goes up, inflation goes down. We saw inflation over 8%. It's gone down now. But next year at this time, after we've given out the stipend and added the 3% and then bumped up their wages. So next year, let's say inflation goes to 10, 11, or 12%. Are we going to match that next year as well? Are we going to continue to increase our wages with this cycle up and down? Or are we truly going to look at the wage that we pay and pay our people what they're worth and not get on this roller coaster of up and down, up and down?
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Would you read, and I think Commissioner Robbins made a motion, but it was a move to recommend, I think, to move this, yes.
Division of the question, please.
Okay, so my notes say lump sum 750, union and non-union employees, and propose a wage increase of 3%. Effective, and then Mr. Janet clarified effective, and and Commissioner Lautner, effective the 24th to the scale. Seconded by Wessel.
Been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Commissioner Lautner?
Division of the question?
Divide the question. So you're suggesting we take the 750 separate from the 3%?
Correct.
Okay, so the first vote will be on the lump sum 750?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1. Second question is on the percentage. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-2. Thank you. I think it's important that we, when we talk to the staff about this after a final decision, that it reflects that we have been highly impressed by the extreme cost of living increases this year, and this isn't something that we intend to do on a regular basis. It's been an unusual year, and we have staff that are struggling. Let us go now to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and Trudy. And after this item, we'll take a 5-minute break.
I just have a very quick update for you. The latest word I have from EPA, after I talked to our project manager, our Oklahoma State at the conference, is that the agreement is still being worked on. We should have it by later this month or early October. So I'd like to move this on to your October agenda, but since we'll need to add that next week, I don't have anything else.
Did you hear back from legal counsel on TIF?
I had a conversation with them, and I have to meet with our environmental consultant so that we can all be on the same page before he answers the question on that. Do that maybe this weekend.
Any questions for Trudy? Or anybody want to ask her about Oklahoma City?
Warm enough?
Half the plane to 103 degrees.
I don't know if you shared, but you have been appointed to the MEP. And so I just wanted to congratulate you publicly for that. You'll do a good job.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Michigan Association Planning Board, I was elected to it. It'll be official next month when I'm at the conference on Mackinac Island and get inducted into the board.
Congratulations, you deserve it.
Represent Leelanau County and these rural counties in the Northern, so I'll get that on the board.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break.
That where we are? Where is it? I don't even see it here.
It's number 6.
Oh, no, that's the tax rate.
That's what this is. We're going,
I thought this was the whole.
okay, we have, next on the agenda is the equalization approval of the tax rate, and it's on 71, page 71 of our board packet.
I'm guessing that Chet went to go get Andrew.
Okay.
Okay. So I've got my hand up for the motion.
Well, let's wait for Andrew to come
I
and,
know, I just want you to know it's there. Thank you, by the way, for the. It was getting scary in there.
Actually. So that would be this
when,
piece of paper right here.
when Andrew comes, he will give us a quick overview, but it is our duty this month to fill in the blanks on our tax rate request form. And we do have a EDS there.
Do you want me to wait for Andrew
Yes,
before I make the motion?
I think so. I think we need to have him be here.
Okay.
We will take just a second and see if I can find Andrew.
Oh, I see, so,
I have a splitting headache.
oh no. Did you not get enough to eat? Or you didn't eat breakfast?
I didn't eat, but that usually, I don't eat in the morning.
I don't have anything to offer you. Here, read this.
It looks like he's just
No,
finishing a phone
I
call
don't
with
need food, I need
someone.
aspirin. Break. You don't care, you don't travel with that, huh?
I don't think I have any.
Aspirin or inhalers? Do you travel with that? I do. Oh, splitting headache. Oh, thank you. I have my cramps now. I have my overload.
100 milligrams, how many do you want? Just one.
Thank you.
What do you want to introduce just you know? Here's Andrew.
Yeah, it's coming.
Thank you, Andrew. We are on looking at your EDS, and you're going to give us a little bit of instruction.
So, right, so today what we're doing is we're just doing the approval of the L4029, which is the tax rate request for the levies to be used that would be done on December 1st. So, there should be a recommendation at the bottom of the EDS.
Yes, there is.
And then you have copies of the 29.
We do. So the suggested recommendation at the bottom is approve a millage rate that does not exceed the maximum renewal millage rate or millage levy, and place that millage rate in column 10 as the millage rate requested to be levied December 1, and return L4029 to the Equalization Department.
Correct. And I believe it should, sorry, this was my mistake. It should be column 11. That's the millage to be levied.
Okay. Commissioner Elgar?
I would move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve a millage rate that does not exceed the maximum allowable millage levy inserted in column 9, and place that millage rate in column 11 as the millage rate requested to be levied as follows. Road, 0.5. Senior, 0.3134. Early childhood, 2.2111 is requested to be levied on December 1st, 2022, and return the L4029 to the Equalization Department.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Commissioner Lautner?
So, for the operations, same as last year? We're requesting the same amount as last year?
So the amount that was levied, the 3.358, that was what was levied in July. And that's I believe that's a different amount than what was levied in 2021. 2021 was 3.3988.
Because it rolled back,
Right,
perhaps?
correct.
Okay. And then road,
The road was renewed in August, so that's why the original millage authorized was 0.5, and then it's multiplied across. So that doesn't, because it was just renewed.
Okay. And the senior voted, what was that voted to, we're going for 0.3134.
Correct, 0.3134, correct. So it was initially, when it was authorized, it's 0.32, and then it's been rolled back since August of 2022, 0.3134.
Okay. And then the early childhood, back up, how much is the road going to bring in?
The road brings in 1 million, well, just doing the math, the roads is, the revenue from that is 1,658,725 by my math.
That was the road in the senior?
Seniors is 1,039,689.
689?
If you would repeat the first number for,
The road.
yeah,
So the revenue for roads, again, by my math, is 1,658,725.
thank you.
Okay, and senior is 1,039,000, 1,040,000 basically, okay. And then the early childhood?
So early childhood, do the math here with the, the millage is gonna be reduced to 0.2111. So let me do that.
You're good. This is what I gave them.
Oh, is that the
Okay,
700,000 you're talking?
And Andrew can verify.
Correct, so 700,313 and change.
Because Ty, you had mentioned something a couple months ago about their balance in this millage level. Are you recommending to stay the same, considering what they've got set aside, or do you know what that is? I don't even know. I just remember you mentioning that.
We had mentioned that the information we had from the health department was old information.
Okay.
And what she confirmed today, that she was spending a projected budget of $670,000, I think. This makes it close to that. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
We now have the Leland Dam Authority Board of Public Works discussion, dam appraisal, and then membership. So we'll start, Mr. Christensen, with the dam appraisal.
Right, I believe you have it. Spicer came through, with the appraisal, and I believe it's in front of you.
See? $4,000,006.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Reading that number.
I mean, as you remember, this was a request from our insurance provider that we had to have appraisal of the dam. So this is a follow-up on that.
Any questions for Steve?
Is it,
I'm just wondering if Steve's got this in his budget.
This is,
it's just
a
an
request from
appraisal?
insurance. They wanted to know the value of the dam. This doesn't do anything with the dam, they just wanted to know the value of the dam.
I thought you were requesting a new dam from us. I was relieved checking.
I have high hopes that this dam.
I read it twice.
needs to be replaced.
I read it twice. So, does that seem, what was the new, was it 2 million some to build that dam, or was it 4 million to build that dam? What was it? 5? 5 million? So it was split 50/50, so our cost
I
was,
believe when I came on in 2005, it was a $5 million.
No.
It wasn't at $5 million to improve it?
No, it was a fuzz over $1 million.
to build the whole dam for the county?
To fix.
No.
Is that-
Well, we built the
The
dam.
original cost.
Built the brand new dam.
Well, when I came on in 2000, I was directed by Leelanau to fix my dam. And by 2006, we had a fix in place. And the fix was around $1 million. That's what I did to the dam.
We took out the old boards, which we pulled the boards and planks that used to nearly kill Jerry every year, and we put in a brand new dam. What did that brand new dam cost?
It was a fix. A lot of it was new. It was around $1 million.
I think a portion of the dam was new, not the whole dam, correct?
Correct, it was a fix.
We put in the whole new spillways and the whole new, yeah.
Stayed place, but
We went with the whole
crest gate versus.
hydraulic, yeah. That was only $1 million?
Maybe it was 500,000.
Maybe it's 505, that's where I was going, it was a 50/50 split.
Yeah, it
in
was
there.
50/50 split.
So our dam went up in value by that much, it is now worth 4 million?
What they're estimating here is that we had no damage.
Working at the years.
There was absolutely nothing there. And we had something in there. That's what these numbers represent.
I'm sorry, say that again. There was some static.
What these numbers are representing are.
The whole.
If there were no dam.
Okay.
And we built a dam.
Built a.
That's what's happening.
Got you, okay.
You don't need any action on this. This is just for our information, correct?
Correct. It's, I was directed to move forward and get this, and it came through, and they did do the inspection for the triennial inspection 2-3 weeks ago, and they're working on that report as we speak. So I anticipate that coming through before long.
So if somebody were to ask us how much is that dam worth, we'd say 4.6 million?
Correct.
Any questions or comments for Steve?
Well, now that they know, is our insurance going to go up?
I think they're looking at all these things because of the dams that got washed out.
I'm sure they are.
And so all of those places are looking at dam replacement. That's why they're looking.
Patricia lost her connection, and that is where Chet is. You want to start us talking on membership? Are you briefed on that?
I'm not up to speed on the membership. I see it's in there. I don't see anything in the documents.
We have accepted with appraisal. Right now, we're ready to talk about membership.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Are you getting the membership?
Oh, well, you to discussing this and you want to have further dialogue, you said potential membership, so that's why it's on the agenda. As you know, you have the right to restructure, reorganize, and define what type of membership you have on the dam authority. So, and I believe to the last dam meeting, maybe one before that, the dam authority endorsed the concept of restructuring the dam board. Is that correct, Steve, as I was told? Okay, the board, the dam chairman told me that that occurred. I wasn't there, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't have the minutes in front of me.
Okay. But as you know, you as a board have the authority to restructure the dam authority. Currently, it's the road commission members and Mr. Christensen as the drain commissioner. But there was discussion about changing the process, the membership, to where you can define who's on the board. It would not have to be limited to road commission. Because some road commission members, when they were elected, didn't even know they were on the dam authority. It's not a passion for them. And at least what I was told by two of the dam authority members, that the dam authority would welcome your restructuring of the membership criteria. And really, it's up to you. You can set the criteria. It could be open to the public. You could structure it like the planning commission, where you have different people from different professions. You could mandate that be one, I just make it one road commissioner, one county board commissioner, 3 members of the public, however you wish. But strictly is up to 7 of you to structure the dam authority. And we've been talking about this for quite a few years.
Commissioner Rushton.
Yeah, I would make the motion that we take steps to appoint independent, appoint a new dam authority board. I would support, maybe I didn't word that quite right, but.
To make justice, maybe the board form an internal committee here to come up with a firm recommendation and have some guidelines on how you wish to structure. Because I think from past discussions, all of you seem to be in favor of it, but we just never had discussion, okay, what's the next step?
I'm going to withdraw that motion, but the reason I was putting that out there is, Laurel, I think it's just about time to appoint to our boards and commissions.
You'll be in November,
And it
yeah.
would be a great time to be able to put the flyers out there, or put that request out there to see, if we can pick up some engineers or something like that that may be interested in serving on a dam board. So I think we should move rather quickly on that, so we can take care of that and maybe appoint for the first of the year.
Do I have a motion to form that committee? Melinda?
What committee do we have that might meet? Do we have a policy committee?
No.
Policy committee or?
I was thinking, I don't think we have one that fit. I would recommend a committee of 2 board members, the drain commissioner and the administrator.
Okay. You mean to form the board to select?
Well, to make a recommendation to the full board, to research it, come up with criteria.
Okay, that would be my motion, that we put a committee together of the drain commissioner, the administrator, and 2 commissioners to come up with a recommendation on how a dam authority board, it's going to be an authority, the dam board will look like.
Support.
Any discussion on that?
I'd be happy to serve on it.
All those in support of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, maybe next week everyone can think about it if you wish to volunteer. It'd be easier to.
If you're interested in volunteering for that committee, why don't you contact me before next week?
Okay.
And then when you have to go to those meetings, you can say, I got to go to the damn committee meeting.
Yeah.
And of course, the drain commissioner will have to do all the background work and research.
Sounds good.
That's a given.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
We now have a Parks and Recreation recommendation. Is that Steve too?
Where was it? I think that's in front of you.
It is.
I would.
When?
Parks and Recreation Commission recommends to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to continue to preserve and maintain Miles Kimmerly Park, Old Settlers Park, and Veronica Valley Park as dedicated parkland as outlined in the following county board resolutions: 195-005, resolution granting use of Miles Kimmerly Park to MSUE 4-H, 2000-005 Parks Perpetuity.
So you are recommending that this Board of Commissioners support the recommendation of the Parks Commission to do that?
Yes. And after reading all of the material presented, I think it's important to do that, and I also really hear.
Let's, we need a second first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second, okay.
Okay, we have
Go for
first
the
a
discussion.
motion and a second. Go ahead.
I really hear the plea of the committee that did the historic barns, the neighbor whose business would be ruined if there was a fire department right there. Those are really valid points, and our parkland is special. It belongs to the people. And I think we need to keep it that way. So I think that the committee came up with a good recommendation.
Commissioner Lautner, then Robbins is a Parks and Recreation member, might want to speak to it.
Okay, a couple of quick things. I think I know what Commissioner Allgaier is trying to say, but maybe this could be reworded for Tuesday night. So for what you're, I believe, if I understand what we're saying is each board can't commit a future board. So you're trying to uphold something that was done in '95. So I think what you want to do is write a new perpetuity agreement that's going to be good till the end of the year. And it sounds to me like perhaps that once that new motion is made, that's something every new board will want to commit to for every 2 years. That's how I understand this process is going to have to be made from here on out. So the two motion, furthermore, I would just encourage this board to do it equally with both parks, or all parks, including the 4-H park, and not exclude the 4-H park this time around. That would be my hope. That's number one. But I don't really think that this is what Casson Township is looking for. This came up because, or Cedar Area Fire and Rescue, I should say. This came up because Cedar Area Fire and Rescue wanted to purchase the part of the park for their fire department. I think they are looking for just a yes or no so they can move on. So honestly, I think, and maybe Rick can, or Commissioner Robbins can tell me if that is not how I understand, if I'm not understanding it correctly. That is my understanding of what's going on. So it's perhaps a different motion might be appropriate Wednesday night next week.
That was part of the discussion that the fire department needed a firm answer for us to move on to another location. So if they went to another parcel, they couldn't say, hey, why don't you go back to the park? So that was part of it. Part of it also came up with the Poor Barn, that property there. That committee is really concerned that, they're putting all this work into that parcel there across from the park, and they didn't want to, down the road, have a baseball diamond or something, they wanted to try to keep it preserved for what it's, what they've been working at. So that was part of it too.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. I think there's a couple of issues. One is we need to respond back to the fire department and to the gentleman on the Glen Lake baseball fields.
Mhm.
And I believe the parks came out strongly. They're not in favor of any of these proposals. No parkland can be disposed without the vote of the 7 board members. There are resolutions in place, so legally, you don't have to do anything. It's parkland. Now, if you want to you could put a title or deed restriction on, which is not on the property now, that would hamper future boards. However, they could remove that title description anyway. So really, I'm not sure you need any motions. You can just accept the recommendations of the Parks and Recs and we can notify the fire department that the county is not interested in disposing of the property. But legally, it's parkland, it's county property. No one can do anything without approval of the Board of Commissioners anyway. So it may be good to endorse the concept, but in terms of legally, there's no action really required by any of you at this point.
Would you be willing to remove your motion and construct a different
Move it
motion?
forward?
Yeah.
Sure.
Motion to move it forward to Tuesday? And we'll prepare a formal motion for Tuesday night.
Okay.
I know there was I think when it was mentioned that it would be good to have a positive motion versus a negative. At one point, there was a negative motion at commission level, and then that got taken away, and we came up with a positive motion. But I think it's good that I think Greg Green will be able to read between the lines and say, hey, we're going to move on. I think that was good.
Could you prepare us a suggested motion for next?
Yeah, we can work out. Really, all you just have to say is, we're not interested in this partnership. And in terms of the Save the Barn, I mean, that's a great partnership, but it is the county property, and the county does have the authority. I don't think you want to modify that authority. It's a 25-year lease, but the property is still owned by the county, and the county has jurisdiction what happens. And it's a great partnership. I'm not saying don't continue, but I don't think you want to give up your authority for future projects. 5 years from now, there may be a great concept that everyone wants to do at the park, and it may impact some of the property that the barn is. But that's, when the Save the Barn committee came to us, these are the terms, those are the risks. It's a 25-year lease, and the county does control access to that property. I think you want to maintain that.
Thank you. We'll
I
move
just
that.
have a quick question. What about the ball fields idea? What did the committee think about that?
I think it fell in the same category as the fire station.
But as I understand, he was asking to build the ball fields on county property, not to turn the property over to the school, correct?
Correct. Right now, we're looking at doing a redo on the plan for Miles Kimberly. Hiring a group to come in and help us go through and garner some more input from the public to do a redo on the conceptual plan. As we look at it, it keeps modifying, and our thoughts are quite different from when it was put in place 8 years ago or something. So we're kind of in that process right now. I think it'd be premature to do anything with the 10 acres until we're done with that plan.
Okay, because ball field seems, that's a.
So we will move that
Absolutely.
forward to next week to give the township an answer. Thank you. Thank you. We are now on retired equipment auction update.
Laura. And Ms. Evans, our expert on bidding, will give us an update here.
Prepared a handout that includes an overview of the sales status as of roughly 8 o'clock this morning on the 3 auctions, as well as documentation on each of the 3 items. The auction will end as of next Wednesday, and your meeting's Wednesday, so next Tuesday at 3, and I'll have something forwarded to you by that time on how the auction ended. These are the 2 interceptors. This is their second retirement. They were originally patrol vehicles, and then building safety purchased them, so they're kind of old. And then, of course, Jerry's beloved truck.
I was wondering.
Which is the high bid right now. Everybody wants that truck. It's at $4,000. And I suspect, we're going into a plow season, it could be.
We put a lot of work into that truck.
So I will be sending something to you next Tuesday evening on the results of the auction for approval on Wednesday.
I'm looking at vehicle H, and it says it doesn't start, but it's drivable.
Want to explain that?
Those dang details.
Thank you.
You just ruined our game plan here. You have to park it downhill, that's a minor.
Speaking of auctions, whatever happened to the boat? Did we sell it?
Oh, well, that's on the agenda coming up here.
okay.
Coming up next, Mr. Administrator.
All right, next, sheriff's boat auction. As you know, originally went out for bids. The minimum bid was not attained, and we were gonna go forward, start last week with going out for bids again, just like other vehicles. However, a nonprofit came to me and offered us the full, the minimum bid amount that they were willing to pay for that. And so originally my goal was to put on the agenda to give you an update and recommend that we accept the offer. However, the gentleman from the nonprofit came to me this morning and said they withdrew their offer. The board decided they wanted, it's a nonprofit sailing group, and the board decided they want a different type of a boat, so they withdrew their offer. And so therefore, we'll go out for bid as was the original plan.
Thank you. And the cleaning services.
All right, and several months ago, you gave me authority to enter negotiations with our current cleaning service contract to see if we can come up with a proposal for the next couple of years, and I believe we have. We have been with Solutions for You for 6 years, I believe. Is that, you want to come up here and introduce yourselves, and I'll just give an update?
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello and welcome.
You want to introduce yourselves first?
I'm Luann.
Yeah.
I'm Steve.
Steve, Blaze.
They are the co-partners of Solutions for You, which I know who the actual boss is, though. I won't mention any names, but I know who the leadership is. But prior to 6 years ago, we had a continuous change almost every contract with cleaning services, and we were less than pleased with the quality. We switched to Solutions for You, which, as you know, is based in Lake Leelanau, or Suns Bay, I guess, right? Okay. You have a Suns Bay address, but I thought you were in Lake Leelanau.
We do that to protect ourselves.
Okay. Okay, and they have done it, and I think they've done an excellent job. And, you know, with COVID coming on, the lack of employees, the fact that they're here every day, and the fact that I'm not getting calls from employees complaining, which happened on a pretty regular basis before. And most times, if there isn't a crew here, these two people are here cleaning. I've seen them here on weekends. I've seen them late at night cleaning here. So I'm very pleased with the service. I think we're fortunate that we can have a local company and their employees actually come to work every day. And the increase that they're proposing is a 5% increase from past contracts, and it's a 3-year contract. Anything else you want to say since this is your opportunity?
We'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to serve you. We know everybody here very well, first names, but it's a secure thing. And we do a really good job. We're quite proud of ourselves. And I would like to say we are a woman-owned company.
I want to thank the board for the opportunity to do this, and also Chet, thank you very much. And Chet, we wish you the best in your future journey. Just be careful. I retired 8 years ago. She taught me a career change, and now I work for her. So be careful.
Well, maybe I'll be calling you for an opportunity. No, but seriously, it's been, you know, as you know, finding people to clean has been a challenge for companies. And also, all our cleaners have to pass the security for next door also. So we can't just let anyone in that building next door. And in the 6 years that we've been here, we've not had one incident with any security breach or issues here. And I think none of you are getting calls about our cleaning service, so that's always a good thing. But that was a common challenge we've had with prior contractors.
We have a motion.
I will attempt. Recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to enter into and accept the cleaning contract from Solutions for You for years 2023, 2024, 2025 as proposed.
Support.
Any discussion or questions?
Have we had legal counsel look at the contract?
The legal counsel drafted the prior contract, so if you approve it, we'll just have them revise the new contract. So this is just a proposal, but the contract is in place, was drafted by our legal counsel.
We have a motion and a second. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we go buy you lunch?
There's payday bars down in the dollar machine downstairs.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. And HVAC.
Yeah, this is a little more complex. I won't have further dialogue, but I'll just give you an overview. We've had a partnership with D&W since the day the building was proposed to be constructed. And I think it was 2006 when we entered our first contract with D&W. Gary O'Connor has been the person assigned through D&W here. As you know, this building's having significant challenges now, and you'll hear more about during the budget process. But our contract with D&W expires. We looked at a different form of partnership several years ago. D&W was not interested, but they may be now. So I'm not expecting a vote today. I'm just going to go over two options. Option one is a simple renewal of the current contract we've had. That's been the practice since 2006, where they charge us a specific fee for certain duties, and then we get charged by hour for whatever extra duties they are. As you know from getting the claims every month, we have significant issues, especially with the heating ventilation system. We have 95 heat pumps. We have numerous of them down. 3 have been on order since July, beginning of July. We have no idea when they'll come. So a lot of things to talk about in the budget process, which is a little separate in this contract. So option one is just to renew our current service agreement with D&W, where they do the specific cleaning, which I won't go over because it's in your contract, for a set fee, and anything on top of that is hourly fee. Option two is a little different, something we talked about. I think it ties into a discussion we need to have about whether we want to expand our facility management team. As you know, we've had 3 employees here for many, many years. When we were in Leland, we had 3 maintenance people. Since that time, we moved to a very complex building. We have a very complex septic system, the dam. We added a park, and we still have 3 people. And I think no fault of 3 people, but we're taking a reactive versus a proactive approach. Option B is to have Mr. O'Connor assign here 3 days a week guaranteed, who will do the usual repair, but also, as he did this year, come up with a long-term plan for the buildings, follow through and come up with a preventive maintenance plan. So we try to get ahead of the curve versus always being behind the curve. And that's nothing negative against the 3 employees we have here. But remember, Scott is at the park 6 months of the year. And that leaves 2.5 people here. And we have Jerry's constantly at the dam, the septic system, and so forth. And we have major issues that neither Jerry nor Dwayne nor Scott have the training for and are not authorized to do the training. And so in the long run, I think it may be cheaper for us if we be proactive versus reactive and trying to get ahead of the system and not having things break down and then try to fix it. So I'm not asking for a vote today because I know this is a major switch. I just want you to think about it. You authorized me last spring to enter in a discussion with D&W. We had this discussion 3 years ago with D&W, and they were not willing to commit and I understand why. They actually can charge more. They make more when Gary is somewhere else, because the rate that we get is different than if you just called them. And if they send Gary to a job, the odds are they're going to sell parts and equipment. There's a markup there. So in the past, they've always said, it doesn't make financial sense for us to commit an employee here 3 days a week. After further dialogue, they did come up with option 2, which is basically Gary would be assigned 3 days a week here to be more proactive versus reactive. And that's something that we can talk about during the budget process, but I want to at least start the dialogue this afternoon with you.
Just initial thought from me, that's a pretty good hourly rate. And
by industry standards, yes.
We'd want to make sure, though, that he was doing $25 an hour work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Making $100 an hour.
Yes.
That would be my concern.
And I think we do need to have a further discussion about whole maintenance department during the budget process, because you're right. We have to be careful with that. But truly, I think we are understaffed. I mean, it's just compared to what we had in 2006 and where we were in the buildings we had there to where we are now with 3 people. Same number of people.
You're suggesting we move this to budget?
Yeah, I just wanted to have, at least give you an overview, have dialogue on it, because I think this ties in to what you're gonna do with the heating ventilation system here too. But this is another piece of the puzzle, but it's gonna be, this is one of the major issues you have to tackle in 2023. Because if you walk in the buildings, you'll see it's hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, and the heat pumps are failing. We knew that was gonna happen, and when you did the repairs in 2018, we knew that was a Band-Aid. And it helped short term, but everything now is 4 years older and breaking down at a much quicker pace.
I just have a quick question, because I agree we need to spend more time on this, but why, I assume the 100 an hour is because we're hiring him through D&W. Why don't we just hire somebody?
Well, that's something we need to talk about. That's,
Okay.
when we talk about having a facilities manager, that's the other option.
Yeah. Seems like it would cost us less in the long run to just hire. Okay.
So, I mean, that's why, I'm not asking you to have a vote here.
Right. Okay.
The minimum I would recommend we do option 1, but we need to have a discussion how you want to move forward. I think all of you are in agreement, because we talked last year, we need to address the personnel issue in facilities management. And, you know, Jerry's been here 42 years. He has expertise on the dam, on the septic system, but we need to come up with a long-term plan for that also. And we have no administrative supervision of the parks, so we need to look at that also.
Okay.
Commissioner Lautner?
Well, that is what I was just going to say. We have to give this a lot of thought because
Yeah.
this really isn't apples to apples.
No.
Gary specializes in the heating system here, and Jerry has his specialties.
Yeah.
So really, a facilities manager would oversee everything, but not necessarily be the one up changing heat pumps, if I understand.
Yeah, that's why we've got a
All right.
bigger, much bigger discussion. That's why I'm not asking you for a vote on anything.
Okay.
I just want to plant the seed today. I mean, we have time, our contract expires in December. But I think during the budget process, you're going to have a serious discussion of how we want to proceed with our facilities, both in terms of the building, HVAC, and personnel.
Okay, we'll revisit that later. Community Mental Health Partnership.
Yes, I spent yesterday afternoon in Cadillac. I just want to give you a brief update. It was the 6 county administrators. Last month, you approved the memo of understanding. To date, 4 of the 6 counties have approved that. Other 2 are scheduled to discussion and hopefully approve it this month. So if that occurs, Grand Traverse County is not going to formally send a letter to dissolve community mental health. And we're optimistic from what I heard yesterday that the other 2 counties will pass a memo of understanding to go forward with that. If that happens, we have a tentative meeting scheduled already in October to get into the nuts and bolts what the issues are. There's 2 major paths. One is the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. Those are kind of a technical thing that all 6 counties feel there needs to be more county input in that and a more county jurisdiction and oversight. That is the less of the 2 major issues. That we can resolve. That's more of a technical issue. The biggest challenge is going to be very significant is the quality of services provided. And as you know, there's been issues with that. And how do we get beyond those where all 6 counties feel like their needs are being met? Some counties are pretty happy with the services. Others are not. It's no secret Grand Traverse County has been very vocal. If things don't change, they're going to withdraw. And if they withdraw, all 6 counties have to form new partnerships. So that's the real question. I believe the Community Mental Health Board is meeting Thursday. And I understand the current chairman of that board has notified Grand Traverse County that he will be resigning as chair. And so the board will be electing a new chair. And Eric Kurtz, who is the overseer from the state of Michigan, is going to strongly recommend Thursday that they start the search process for a new leader for community mental health. Right now, there's a void in leadership there, and so everything's kind of a standstill. And so it's even difficult to have dialogue about how to go forward when there is no leadership. But one of the things we all agreed on, and it'll be up to the board Thursday, but Mr. Kurtz is going to strongly recommend that you start the process and post a job and get a leader in place, because that will impact how this process goes forward. So it was a good dialogue. It was about 3 hours, and we kind of got down to nuts and bolts, because it is a very contentious issue with some counties. Not all 6 counties are on the same page. But once again, it just takes one county, not to pick on Grand Traverse, but any of the counties can decide to pull out if they don't like the new terms and conditions, which would force all 6 counties to dissolve. So we're making progress. Grand Traverse County has committed, and the board chairman was there, that they will not pull the trigger and send a letter to the state if they feel like they're making progress, which we all thought they would. Grand Traverse County had a hearing session where they invited all the clients, parents, the caregivers, whoever wanted to come and give their input. And they thought that may be a negative process, but actually went quite well. And they have a consultant, and it appears they're willing to offer that consultant to each of the other 5 counties to have the same thing. All 6 of our county administrators said, we don't have the expertise to hold such a forum. We need someone with a professional background. And so Grand Traverse County, I believe, is going to offer that option. And Mr. Kurtz strongly recommended that each 6 counties do that, so the county boards know exactly what the issues are in their counties. Because what has happened in Wexford County is different than Leelanau versus Grand Traverse versus Ross County.
And Mr. Kurtz has agreed to assume interim CEO duties.
He did
And
mention that.
it is time to move forward on that.
Yeah, I don't want to speak on half behalf, but he did say that. So I think Thursday you'll have a critical meeting on how to go forward. So I'll keep you updated as the process. Assuming all 6 counties agree, we schedule a follow-up meeting on October 3rd for the administrators to actually start working on the changes and how that process is going to look. We all felt those hearing sessions, listening sessions are critical, and each county should have one of those.
Thank you. And now we have administrator search update.
All of you know this, I think a couple of you have asked this on agenda. As you know, you interviewed 6 candidates. The 7th candidate never responded to any of our phone calls or emails, so we don't know what the circumstances were of him not participating. All 6 were contacted and notified that the board is meeting tomorrow about the next steps and potential list of finalists, and they all expressed their interest in still being part of the process. So you are meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and that's between that and the budget that's on the agenda.
And we will be deciding at that time whether who we're going to bring back for a second interview and how that proceeds. So come to the meeting prepared with your recommendations on who was interviewed, and we will make that decision tomorrow. Any questions on that? Good news from opioid settlement?
Yeah, on your desk, I passed out this morning. This is a brief summary, but a significant portion of the lawsuit was settled last week and finalized, and we may have already received the first partial payment for 2022, which is $9,995.67. And at some point, you're going to decide how to allocate that money. I'd say hold off on now, because there'll be a second partial payment coming for this year. Probably in the next several weeks. There's one more lawsuit that has not been completely finalized, but they're in the process. I'm guessing for this year, we'll get about 16,000. That amount will continue for the next 18 years. It's an 18-year settlement. But I worked with the treasurer's office. We gave them our transfer account numbers and authorized everything. So the money may be here already. But at some point, you have to decide how to allocate that. I've also asked our Substance Abuse Committee to discuss this Friday to see if they have any recommendations on how you wish to allocate the money. The guidelines are pretty flexible. It has to be somehow related to substance abuse, either prevention or past costs.
Thank you. Yes, Deb.
I was just wondering if you had any discussion with our courts and/or our sheriff's department about what their needs might be respectively.
No, I haven't had it. I got this Friday, so I just haven't had any.
I'm just wondering if we should not have a
Yeah.
discussion, because those would be the 2 places that I think we could see a need for programming or something.
Well, the good thing is both the sheriff and the judge are very active members of our coalition.
Right.
And probably be in dialogue there also. But there's no rush for you to make a decision, so we have plenty of time to have those dialogue. You know, and it's not every year it's not a significant amount of money, but it does help. It does make a difference. And if it is $15,000, that's $15,000 that can be applied to some program or some activity or something, you know. Yeah.
We've kind of already committed it to lift, didn't we?
Any further questions on that issue? Before I ask for a motion to go into closed session, I wonder if this board would be okay with adjusting the agenda to allow public comment now instead of the end of the meeting, out of respect for the people that have been here all day and may want to not sit there in the chairs while we go into closed session. Would anybody be opposed to that? So if we will modify our agenda, and at this time, we would ask if there's anybody that wants to make public comment. Yes, Mr. Esper.
Keith Ashley, Leelanau Township. Following my comments earlier this morning, one of the participants in the public comment mentioned that what I was doing was actually projecting Democratic actions, and that was a good Democrat, which was incorrect. I'm a good independent, a former Republican of 60 years, so I have a lot of that in my background. All of the points that I commented on having to do with book banning, voting, health issues, and religion are well documented all over the place in many states that are run by Republican governors and whatnot. National leaders are all on the bandwagon to do these things. Those who are of the radical portion of the GOP, and I feel bad about that, because being a Republican for 60 years, I devoted a lot of my efforts to GOP causes. And now that they have been, I hope temporarily, sidetracked by a radical element, that will change in time. But my comments deal with what they are actually doing. They follow the game plan that's laid out in the well-researched and documented book, Democracy and Change, which was published in 2018, so that's 4 years ago. It was written on the plan that dates back to 1965. The Civil Rights Movement started this movement. And so it's, you know, it's not an anti-Trump book, as you might think. It's a documentation of what a radical element has now, with well financing, taken over the party. I mentioned religion. There was a good story in the Record Eagle here last week. This took place in Batavia, New York. The crowd were on their feet singing, "We're not going to take it anymore." And this was under a revival tent, and they were all hooting as former General Michael Flynn strode across the stage, bopping and laughing, singing the refrain in his microphone, and encouraging the audience to sing along with him. "We'll fight the powers," and so on and so forth. The MC introduced him as the America's general. Those in the audience, Flynn is far more than that. He's a martyr, a hero, a leader, a patriot, and a warrior. Many of us also know that he was in touch with the Russians. He lied to his president, Trump, and was booted out of his position a couple of months after being given the national security job for his lying. His goal now is to build a national Christian coalition and to introduce a national Christian religion in this country. It's well financed, he's raising a lot of money, he's making a lot of money. And so it's not some wild dream that people are imagining. This is what's factually taking place right now. I want to thank Clerk Michelle Proctor for her excellent presentation on the voting process. And she mentioned and read some statistics of the Republican Party leadership in Michigan discredited the Antrim County allegations of voter fraud, and overall in Michigan, their audit showed that there was zero voter fraud. One would wonder, will that change any thinking on voter fraud in either this room, this county, or this state? Gary Gasparov, who is a noted chess player, made this comment, has a lot of merit. The point of modern propaganda isn't only to misinform or push an agenda. It is to exhaust your critical thinking, to annihilate the truth. He makes the point, there would be no game of chess if the pawns refused to play. A lot of truth in that statement. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp and then Ms. Denton.
Chairman Knapp, Leelanau Township. First of all, thanks for moving public comments up, because that was one of the things I was going to suggest. You had public comments before you went into the closed session. I sat through one of those, and Martin said through another. So I thank the board for doing that. Number two, okay, Keith and I have different reports. The one thing I think Michael Flynn was outright real, in fact, I know it was, threatened his son with federal prison if he didn't plead guilty for very minor process crime. Very minor. Any Democrat who did what he did would not even have looked at it. That's a fact, not an opinion, no matter what that book says. Number three, I'm not going to use a lot of the time here. I was making a list, but what I'm going to do is bring the list to Tuesday night. So, graciously for the public comment section then. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tricia Benton, I'm representing the League of Women Voters Leelanau County, and I just wanted to thank you for having Michelle Crocker give her presentation today. And thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. Ms. Dawkins?
I hate coming after Keith.
For your investor.
No, I wanted you to go first. Back in 1998, I worked for the Leelanau County Family Coordinating Council, who, about that time that I started working for them, started a group called the Parenting Communities, which has now transformed into Early Childhood Initiative. And I worked here for 17 and a half years under the prosecutor's office on child support. And I found that Parenting Communities, who is now involved in the early childhood with the same focus and goals and a lot of the same faces. I could not have done my job as well as I felt that I did without Parenting Communities. They, it's a safety net for people, and it doesn't matter what your income is, or your education, or whatever. I consider myself fairly well educated, and I have always been very fortunate that I have never had financial woes. I've always been lucky to be in the right place at the right time, but I still found being a new parent was very hard, even with family and friends support. And the early childhood, the people that work for that are well-versed in childhood development. So going on from that, I went and pulled my taxes because Commissioner Rushton referenced the early childhood and the seniors villages. So for my taxes, once a year, I paid $44.38 for the millage for the seniors and I paid $27.80 a year for early childhood. I'm really getting a bargain for my money. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to commit to raising healthy, educated families and children in this county, and also for us, the cradle to grave was one of the phrases we used at the coordinating council. I'm sure we still do. And I feel very lucky to be where I am, that I am in a community that cares about people, and you guys represent that for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comment? Thank you very much for attending. Could I have a motion to go into closed session?
And just for clarification, the reason is to have a dialogue about upcoming labor negotiations as allowed by Michigan state law.
So moved. Second.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
I believe it has to be a roll call vote, doesn't it? To go into closed session?
It was, I have Al Geyer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Al Geyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Soto's absent, and Wessel.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, could I have a motion to come out of closed session, please?
So moved.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Support. Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0. Okay, we review of financials.
Did you have a question or comment?
No, go ahead.
You've mentioned the light bulbs, but, okay. The only thing I wondered about was, and I forgot the vendor name, but there was a large bill for pizza for, I think, emergency management, but it was from like Beulah, and I was wondering,
Oh.
it was away.
I had seen something where they had purchased.
I think I can explain, because I was there at that meeting. Actually, Matt made the pizzas himself, but he bought the supplies. And as part of that grant that he has, that he provides food for every 3 months, the
All right.
emergency.
So we weren't meeting off-site down there somewhere, it was a meeting here on
No, it was a
campus.
meeting here. He just
Okay.
purchased the
Okay.
supplies, and he actually baked the pizzas himself.
Wow,
Wow.
talented. Okay, that makes a lot of
And he didn't
sense.
invite us.
Right, that's another.
We tried to get him to, actually.
I think it was, what, $159 for that?
And
he didn't charge us for his labor.
No, he didn't.
Chef services.
We didn't also have a choice of what we wanted on our pizza either, so I did have a talk about that.
He just loves making them, apparently.
More anchovies and you have to make as many.
Other questions on financials?
That was really the only thing that kind of jumped out at me.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any special reports by staff, commissioners, or agencies?
Just a reminder that the meeting is next Wednesday, not Tuesday evening.
Right. And bring our budget books tomorrow?
Yes, if you could, and bring the 2023 budget books. I should have put that in the email, because I won't mention name, but one commissioner brought a prior year budget book. I won't mention any names, though.
Did you have that paperwork ready for today? I'll just take it home.
No, we're just, no.
Oh, okay.
Any other reports? We've had our public comment. Any commissioner comments? Yes, Commissioner Robbins.
We're kind of limited on time, but I want to see how many commissioners would be willing to go out to the Maples in October and work for about 6 hours or so with Habitat in building those houses. And I'm not doing it for brownie points or to get out of the doghouse.
If we do that, will you make the pizza?
Sure.
Do you have the specific dates, did you say?
No, I'll have to get with them and, but, you know, just, I told them that I would throw it out there. You know, we always saying we want to help out with affordable housing, and it's one way they're looking for volunteers, so
So where are they gonna be on the construction?
What's that?
Where will they be on the construction?
That I don't know.
I like drywall mud.
I think they're framing in, so
Oh.
I'm not sure what they're,
If you want to get me those dates, I can get email to everybody.
yeah.
I can paint, but beyond that.
Drywall
Sounds
mud
like
is
fun.
therapeutic.
I'm willing.
Thank you, thank you. So you're gonna get him some dates, and then
Yes,
we'll get
yes.
back to you, and we'll run out of fall soon,
Yeah.
so we'll have to get back to you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Lautner?
I have one. I'm going to share a concern that I have with what happened at today's meeting as far as the agenda item with mid-year adjustments. We have a process, we have a committee, and that's how we operate in this county. Our committee met and decided that it should come to the full board for consideration. But today we had two commissioners come in with a recommendation that did not come out of our committee. So I took the opportunity to ask the chairman about this on break. After our committee met, the chairman advised Commissioner Robbins and Commissioner Patricia Sotis Little to meet and come up with a recommendation. So we have two commissioners that met, deliberated towards a recommendation, and brought it to this board. It is not our policy. We have no idea what the deliberations were. We have no idea what what conversation took place in coming up with the amounts that were presented. We have staff time involved in putting the numbers together. After all that, so I sit on finance, and it left me out. I was left out of the process, and I sit on finance committee. So I was not asked to meet outside of the committee and come up with a recommendation. Nothing was said today either about where this money is going to come from. So we've got to come up with $168,600 for the remainder of this year, if this passes Tuesday night, and $250,000 extra we'll be looking at when we look at budget for 2023. So that is my concern, and I share that with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comment? Well, I would say that this group received the finance report, and the finance report was also written up in the enterprise, and it referenced that there was discussion about a mid-year salary or mid-year increases. Two commissioners on their own contacted me, said I'm interested in this, and I urged them to work together. I did not go to Rick and say, will you do it? Two commissioners came to me, Commissioner Robbins. So I think how you described what happened is
I
not
thought
quite
we
accurate.
did discuss it in our meetings. I did see it in enterprise. I did talk to Patricia. And since I had talked to Ty, not about it, but he was involved, I didn't want to go talk to another fourth commissioner.
Well, that's actually not true either, totally. So I'm going to leave that at that. That was not our process, it's not our policy, and it was not the correct way to do it. We don't do business like that here. Or maybe we do. Maybe we do act non-transparently, and I was unaware of it. So it's fine.
Any other commissioner comment? I don't know that I have one more. I don't know that you can be any more transparent than having that discussion in an open public board meeting. We made a recommendation today. There's a week and a day to go before we make a final decision. That is a transparent process.
We were brought an actual motion with numbers, in numbers brought by our staff. That was a deliberated, set forth motion by two commissioners that did not meet in public.
Approval of financials.
I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of claims and accounts, $107,989.72.
Support.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 6-0.
I would recommend approval of post audit, $5,677,094.02.
Support.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Support, yes.